Computer. There we go.
There we go.
There you go. Job done.
Okay.
Okay.
Smashing.
So do you want to introduce us and what we do?
Hello, we're Bill and Harver.
I'm Harvard, that's Bill.
Yeah, that's Harver, that's Bill. And we have been living on this piece of land near Llanidloes for, well, about 20 years. It started as a 6-acre sheep field and has kind of developed. And we have been making, I suppose I've been making cider off and on for 20, 25 years, and it's always been natural, 100% juice, no added yeast, no pitch yeast, no sulfites, no anything. So, and I was basically inspired to do that because my dad started making cider in Somerset about 30 or 40 years ago, and I was like, oh, this is really good. So that's the backstory to the place, really. And we still are making 100% juice, minimum intervention, live bottled cider. So that's essentially
So we're starting with the Browns and Redstreak. So these apples are not from Prospect Orchard. So this is just a nice, light, lovely welcome drink. And then we will start kind of talking about our Prospect Orchard ciders and the progression of those. So we have a grower that we work with near in Herefordshire.
just over the border from
Just over the
Paris.
border. So if we want to do any specific blends or single varieties, we kind of talk to him about what he can find. He knows like every little nook and cranny of unused trees here and there, so we can kind of source some different bits. So this is one of those.
Yeah, and we also have some other out orchards that we pick. Some around here, around Llanidloes. We have a very beautiful old orchard we pick in Shropshire, just over the border into Shropshire, because we're 35 miles from Herefordshire and 30 odd miles from Shropshire. So, you know, we're able to pull in fruit from around us and also from east of us as well.
Yeah, so it's kind of fun location to be in because we've got our orchard and then we've got the Herefordshire orchard and the Shropshire orchard, which are all quite close, but all have very different characters. So our, like the Borders Bittersweet, that is the Shropshire orchard we pick from. So yes.
So we made this is
2020.
This is from 2020. And we did two kind of iterations of this blend, one of which was the Redstreak, which was 60.
The Redstreak was a single variety.
Okay, yeah. And then we blended this with Browns, which is a sharp, which gives you, it's got that kind of nice mouth-watering-y kind of chewy sweet kind of thing going on with the sharp, which balances nicely with the Somerset Redstreak is a really nice, it's an early, but it has lots of lovely kind of toffee flavors and nice soft tannins, and yeah, I think they've melded really well.
Yeah, so because it's an early bittersweet, it's always quite low in alcohol as well. So the Browns and Redstreak's only 5.9, whereas most of what we do is more kind of in the 7.3 around there.
Jack's just asked about how you fermented this one. Have you fermented in plastic or wood or stainless steel? Yeah. What's your usual?
So most of what we do is in IBCs, so 1,000 litre. And that works really well for us. We've done quite a bit in oak this year. We used to do everything in oak in whiskey cask. But everything came out tasting of whiskey, which is lovely, but we really wanted to get more into playing with the specific apple varieties and blends. And
I've got a bit of a thing about like an overlove of whiskey casking. I'm like, oh, it's whiskey. Oh, it's also whiskey. Yeah, it's peaty.
I love it. And you're not so keen, basically. So I buy a lot of ciders that are oaked in, whiskey barrels, and yeah, you wish you didn't. So that's and that's really.
So props to you for not
moving away from that, maybe.
Yeah. Well, so I think stainless is lovely, but for us the the IBCs work really well. It's a nice size. They're easy to clean. They're easy to
Yeah.
use. And it works great
They're
for
quite
us.
cheap.
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
And they're neutral. They are
They are
they're
neutral,
completely
yeah.
neutral. I mean, the thing is, I think when I first met Harva, I and some friends had bought an Arctic full of 110-gallon Bowmore Dawn whiskey casks. This was, quite a long time ago. And at the time, it was just right, great. This is really easy. You empty out, they cost like 25 quid each, delivered from Scotland. You empty out half a gallon of Bowmore Dawn that's come out of the wood. And you drill a hole in the top and you fill it full of apple juice, and 6 or 8 months later you drill a hole in the bottom, whack a spile and what have you in, and it's sterile, and then you use it once. And it was just the mechanics of it, really. It wasn't even going for the whiskey cask flavour. I mean, I do like Bowmore Dawn's very nice, but yeah, we've done like 3 or 4 30-gallon oaked ones this year, just as a bit of a jolly and a different thing for Cider Club as well, so we can have a bit of variety. And some things go really well. Some of the really dark tannic ciders go very nicely with.
So do some of the light ones as
Yeah,
well.
they do actually. Yeah, sometimes with like a Cox's Orange Pippin or something. But I mean, the funny thing is as well is like, so the Shropshire blend we do, people quite often say, "Oh, is that rum?" Or sometimes with the Redstreak as well, they're like, "Oh, is that rum cask?" And it's like, "Well, no, these are the flavors from the apples," and that's kind of exciting that you can have there's so many thousands of different flavor profiles with all different varieties of apples. So that's more our thing now, I guess.
Yeah. So does anyone want to say anything about the Browns and Redstreak before we kind of move on to the Prospect Orchard?
Well, I'm really enjoying it. I could drink quite a lot of that.
Yeah, it's easy.
Yeah, it's very easy drinking.
It's refined whilst also having a nice fruity finish.
Yeah. Anyone else?
That's my contribution. There you are.
We had a sort of a thing. So years and years ago basically having been to a couple of vineyards and heard a lot about wine before they ever thrust a glass of wine in our, like in California, we have a thing here. If anyone comes in on a tour or anything, the first thing we do is thrust the glass of cider at them before we start yakking about it, because there's nothing more frustrating than spending an hour and a half on a vineyard tour when they tell you all about the wine. It's like, just let me taste some of the flavors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'd like to do is show you a little video of Prospect Orchard just to get you into the place.
Yeah, you can have another glass and imagine that you're flying 20 foot over the orchard.
Well, so let's.
How does it work?
Can you please?
Yes, I can.
Full screen sharing.
Yeah, I thought I'd done this earlier, but it's there we go. Who can share? There we go. That should now do the job.
Right. So I am here.
So then you can full screen it when you get
There we go.
Okay.
Let's see if this works.
Hold on tight.
Okay. Can everyone see that? Are we there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I do that?
Yeah. Whoa.
Well, can everyone still see it? Hang on. Yes, no? Yeah.
All good? Can you
So we
see
can
it?
see your
Please.
folder. Have you? I can see the folder, but I can't see a video playing.
Oh. Okay, hang on.
Is it playing on
folder?
your?
Oh, sorry. Sorry, bear with me a sec.
Yeah, no worries.
It's all good fun.
Sorry about
There we are.
Can you see it now?
That's it.
Yeah.
I'm going to rewind it now. Oh, there we
Right,
go.
okay,
That'll do.
so
Yeah.
is that all right for everyone? Okay, so this is some footage that was taken in October this year.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So that's our house down in the corner, and this is the main orchard there. So about half the trees had been harvested already. So we're at 1,150 feet, and this video is really amazing because you don't really notice, but actually right behind our house there's a huge drop off that goes into the valley quite steeply right behind us. Yeah, there you go, over the edge. Oh,
go. Ooh.
Such a great shot.
So yeah, a friend of ours did this.
So this was he's not yeah, it's a bit of a trial run. But so there's our house, there's the orchard. So the main orchard's in the left corner, and then right in front of our house, that's another little mini bit on half standard trees.
Yeah, there's like a couple of hundred varieties there. So that's the thing, every tree in our orchard is a different variety. So we've got about 500 plus varieties of apple and pear growing. So the cider you're going to taste has a mix of all of those varieties.
Look, there's Bill harvesting apples with our fancy apple picker-upper.
And this little bit here is nominally a pear orchard, but actually it's totally interplanted with apples because we had so many varieties. So we're at, what are we, about 1,300 feet?
1,150.
Oh, 1,150 feet, which is kind of a loopy place to plant an orchard. But yeah, I don't know, we did 1,500 to 2,000 litres last year, I think, off our own apples. So,
yeah. So, yeah, the general kind of accepted advice is that you shouldn't plant over 800 feet or so. So it's a bit of an experimental place. And like Bill just said, every tree that we've planted is a different variety. So we've got about 450 types of apple and about 60 types of pear all growing here. So I think we can leave that running if you want to keep looking, and I'd say we could open.
Yeah.
We thought we'd start from newest to oldest, so we'll go for the
21.
Prospect 2021, which is
Right.
the one with the handwritten label and the orange lid.
Can I ask a silly question from?
Yeah.
From
many. Yes, do.
Great. So you said that it's not advisable to grow over 800 feet. Is that because of soil quality, or what are the reasons behind that? I'm curious.
Yeah, so there's a lot of reasons. Hang on, let me just pour a little bit of cider.
It's kind of received wisdom in the UK.
First, we must pour booze.
Hold the line, caller.
Yeah, so it's a variety of things. There's soil quality, there's weather conditions, so the amount of wind and rain. There's a big one is pollination.
Okay.
There's a lot of trouble with, I'd say, wind is kind of a big issue. But so like we have kind of a minimal intervention cider philosophy, we're the same with trees. So all of our trees are planted on a full standard root stock.
Yeah.
Which means they'll grow into full-sized orchard trees, like nice big tall trees with trunks, so you can undergraze if you want to. But that rootstock is also the most vigorous, so they really get their roots down. You'll see in the video the trees aren't staked. It's because they're on the full standard rootstock. They grow really well. So basically I got here and Bill had planted the main bit of orchard, and he had, he just went to the nursery and got one of everything, which
sounds like something I'd do.
Slightly crazy thing to do, and it's great that he did. It's not how I probably would have gone about it, but it's made it fun.
It's part of the thing was it's a crazy place to plant an orchard according to all the kind of power, wisdom, like Gardener's Question Time or whatever. And it's like, well, we might as well. I'm going to give it a go and see what happens. And they're doing really, really well. We've got kind of quite a good microclimate here, so the field kind of slopes to the south.
Oh, okay. So it's nice and warm. Can get
and the trees are doing great, and so we're getting, it must have had 2.5 tons or something. So the oldest trees are sort of about 18 years old, and then the smaller trees, like we've got anything up to about sort of, I don't know, about 6. I don't know. We've been planting. We're still planting the odd tree. We had to stop. So then I got into swapping cironwood with various people by post, and that's how we ended up with so many varieties. So this cider now. So
let's shut that.
Yeah, so we'll shut that because it's feeling slightly vertiginous.
Right, go. How do I make you go away? Stop share.
Stop share. Say hello again, everybody.
Hello.
So yeah, anyway, that was just a little kind of video to get you So see where we are.
It looks amazing.
It's a amazing place. It's beautiful.
Yeah, do come and visit, everyone.
Love to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so that's our orchard, and every tree is a different variety. And the Prospect Orchard cider mostly is a blend of everything
Yeah.
that we grow here. So apart from 2020, when we did something a little bit different. So this one is basically a mix of everything. So we kind of pick it as it's ready, press it, and it all goes in together in a big orchard blend.
yeah.
So the trees are all different varieties, but it is a really good balance of bittersweets, sweets, and sharps.
So yeah.
Yeah, and dessert apples. So I don't know how much knowledge everyone has about different apple varieties. But okay, so with cider, so cider apples, you've got bittersweets, which have the body and tannin. You've got sweets, which are sweet and a bit bland generally, but have a good sugar content, good for blending. And you've got sharps, which are like more like cooking apples that are really acidic. And then you've also got bitter sharps and various other bits just to confuse.
Yeah.
But you can also, of course, use dessert apples or cooking apples, and we kind of use them as sweets and sharps as well. So our orchard is a mix of all of these, and so we just do one big blend with it.
So I'd say with this, as now, this is quite early for us. So this is 20.
Yeah, we haven't released this.
We haven't released this one yet, and you can. It's got loads going on. It's got loads of waxy apple skin. It's got big tannins. It's still got a bit of residual sweetness. It will probably fizz up a little bit more than this, and it'll do a bit of a malolactic fermentation thing. So it's kind of, there's so much going on, and it's kind of almost as it ages, the things will meld and marry together, and it will become slightly more civilized. It's kind of a bit of a bruiser right now, but also no, not bad for that. I think. I mean, you know, I'd like to think you can taste every one of the 400 varieties of apple in here. Anyone wants to pitch in, or any, you know, you know.
So I'd say with this, so the reason, sorry, Jack, one sec. So the reason we haven't released it yet, so our kind of, we press it and then we bottle it. So these are bottled pet nats, so they're bottled quite early.
So we press it into IBCs.
Yeah, we press it. It goes into an IBC. It was bottled. The more tannic varieties kind of don't get bottled straight away. You know, they kind of, it's maybe about April, May that this was bottled, something like that. And then we would probably keep this another year before releasing it. And it's not an exact science for us. It's just like, okay, that tastes ready. It doesn't taste ready. To me, this doesn't taste ready yet. All the flavors are really kind of not melded together, not softened, not.
Yeah.
So I like it, and it's really, I think it's 2021 was a good year. We had lots of sugar. There was lots of fruit. Great harvest. It's going to be great, but I think it needs to kind of sit and mellow a bit.
Yeah.
Kind of like toffee-coated ferrets fighting in a sack, in a good way.
I was going to say toffee, but not ferrets sort of fighting in sacks. But there's definitely a sort of a toffee apple sort of thing going on there, isn't there?
And it's got a really nice, it's got a very nice kind of almost gunpowdery thing that I really like, you know. So yeah, it's you know, it's big. Basically, the stuff we're getting from here, and I don't know if it's because it's marginal land or it's very. So basically, here we've got between like 6 foot and 6 inches of soil, and it's on top of kind of shattered, schisty, what they call mudstone around here. So it's kind of grey rock. I guess from the Cambrian, it's the Cambrian Mountains, which is was that the end of Annie? That was very loud. Gosh. Oh, okay. And yeah, so and I do think there is such a thing as terroir, or you know, we need to invent a non-Ponzi French word for it, territory or whatever. I think there really is. I think you can, if you grow like if you grow any fruit in a marginal way and don't pamper it, you tend to get more flavour and more juice, more concentration of flavour, and often other things. So yeah.
I mean, I think it's beautiful, like the color of it's beautiful, and I think it's a really nice one.
Jack is so polite. He was going to say something
sorry,
about 5
Jack,
minutes ago.
My question was, oh yeah, it was about, so this is all from your orchard, but obviously some of your fruit varieties are ripening in September, some through to November. Are you filling 2 or 3 IBCs and just topping them up as they ferment, or are you keeping them all quite separate and then blending them in when you decide to bottle?
It's depended on the year and when things are ripening. So we don't have a lot of early fruit. Everything here is a bit later.
And we're right old tampers as well.
And we tamp it and leave it as long as possible before we press it.
Yeah.
And I guess we would, as long as it's active, and lively, we would kind of just fill it up as we go, as things ripen, we press and fill it.
Yeah, I mean, we're normally, so I mean, the only thing that ever we sometimes we have pressed when it hasn't been like kind of extremely ripe. The only thing is we've got one black dabinet tree that produces like at the moment it's producing 3 or 4 baskets a year. And I swear you could keep those things for about 3 years because it's like little hard purple balls, But it goes in and it's just like, well, that's going to give a bit of green fruit flavour. But yeah, I mean, generally our whole philosophy with all of our fruit is we keep it. It's like if you are making a cider with Cox's Orange Pippin, you want to keep them way beyond when there'd be a palatable eating apple. When they're kind of going, like if you ate it, it'd be like, when it goes kind of grainy and sort of all the aniseedy flavours come out.
Sort of a bit furry inside, that sort of.
Yeah, because I think all the starches are turning into sugars and the flavour profile is improving,
That never occurred to me that it would. Yeah, I guess when they were good to eat, they'd be good to press. So that's just my know nothing folk knowledge. That to be completely wrong there. That's fascinating. I learned something. Thank you.
You'd get a different cider, and I think that a lot of the commercial, I mean, I think other people would have a different philosophy. Yeah,
we'd rather pull out any bad apples and make sure everything else is ripe than
and
so Jax, to answer your question a little bit more, so this had everything and we just kind of did it. I think we did it in 2 pressings and just topped it up. But so in 2020 we had more earlies than normal
and a lot of dessert, early dessert
and fruit. A lot of early dessert fruit. So in 2020 we did a prospect cider, which was the later pressing, and we did what we call the prospect newydd, which is the early new season prospect, that we pressed a small batch of the early stuff first and separated that.
It's like our Beaujolais Nouveau, but funnily we're still drinking it. It's really great, But yeah, it's slightly lighter iteration because it's got, I mean, I suppose Morgan Sweet is the one that's really, September, that's kind of ready to go, and as the orchard gets bigger, as the trees get bigger, you can imagine on an M25 rootstock, there's some varieties that you could probably do a single variety and fill a small barrel off one tree, So yeah.
So what I didn't think about, which I'm now thinking about, is because these are basically all the same blend, it'd be quite nice if you had more than one glass. You could have them as we go. You could leave a little bit of the last one and start tasting the next one and go back and kind of compare them a bit more. So if you have lots of glasses and you want to do that, it might be good to leave some of this one and then pour another one of the next. So if I can do this, let me see if I can. Where am I? I thought I could show you a couple of pictures. Am I doing this?
I don't know.
Okay, hang on. Sorry, everybody. I'm absolutely rubbish with this sort of thing. Okay, no. Okay, can I share another? Can I still do that?
Yeah, you've been
Okay.
permission.
Right. Can everyone see a picture of apples? Yes. Okay, so this is 2021. So this is what we're drinking now, and everything was just heavy with fruit. It was amazing.
Sorry,
So
once again. We have the same problem as last time. We've got the folder up, but not the picture.
Really? That's so
Yeah.
weird. Because it's up.
Well, not for them.
Okay, hang on.
That's right.
Wonder why.
Did you open it before you share?
I did, yeah. How about now?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's really weird and annoying, but okay. So that's everything was just covered in fruit. It was an amazing year, and it was also really hot early in the season, I remember. If I do that, can you see that? That's still working? So this is like the amount of tannin in this pressing was amazing. Like if you look at my hands, it's just complete tannin scrat hands.
It's a unique view of our laser-guided high-tech production area.
Yeah, so this is pressed on our old presses by our lovely hands, lovely scrat hands. And the color of the juice that was in that. Yeah, charming picture of us. But I just thought the color of the juice before it was fermented is just beautiful. Moving swiftly on.
As it's working, do you just want to do the photos and then yeah, there we go. So we get, I don't know, with cider apples, I don't know, we get like a couple hundred, 200-300 liters out of this one if we fill it up. If we've kind of got the balls to fill it right to the top before we start pressing. So it's quite exciting.
Yeah, so that's where we press and how we press.
So we have two presses. We have another one similar to this, and we'll be building one up and pressing the other one while we're building this up. So, you know, at the moment, if we're pressing, we tend to do like 2 and 2.5 pressings every day, which is kind of easy. Then you have to break everything down.
How long does it take you to build up one of those presses? I mean, that's pretty huge.
2 hours?
Yeah.
Hour and a half?
Yeah, hour and a half.
Okay.
So it's usually like, excuse me, one person scratting. So we get the apples, we wash the apples, we scrat them, so they go through the mill, and we have got a reasonable mill now. We've got a Voran.
Basically like a big cheese grater. Which the minute we got it, like the old scratter we were using, we were sending so much juice to Benji's pigs in the pumice that we were getting rid of. It's like, wow, this would have paid for itself in the half of.
So it goes in the mill, it comes out, it goes straight into plastic wheelbarrows, so no metal or anything. And then that gets wheeled over to the press. We bucket it into the press. And it's basically, we don't use racks. We've just got a former. We use polypropylene windbreak fabric for the cheesecloth. Apples go in, get wrapped, lift the former, and repeat. Usually we fit about 13 cheeses.
We basically usually get to 13 or 14 cheeses.
And then I start screaming.
I was like, okay, quick, put the top down before it falls. We haven't lost one yet.
No.
That was going to be my next question. See, had you lost one? But you haven't.
There was one year where we had a very enthusiastic helper, and it nearly went, but didn't.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, because it's quite hard work building it up. So quite often, you know, I'm always going, oh, we can fit another one on there, and having to actually unscrew the frame and take it off.
So Bill's not standing up right now, but Bill is 6'7". So when I'm building a press and it's like above my head about that much, and I'm trying to bucket it on over my head.
I'm 6'4".
You're 6'7".
I'm not 6'7".
Are you not?
I'm 6'4".
Oh, I'm disappointed.
6'7" is actually a giant.
I thought you were.
No, well, yeah.
Beck's only 5.
He's very tall.
It's tall.
So yeah, if I'm kind of doing it up here, and he's like, "Oh, I can go higher," and I'm just like, "No, I don't."
Count for you.
Yeah.
So that's how we press. And then so one thing we didn't say actually was we're totally off grid here. So we've got wind turbine and solar panels, So when we need to run the mill, we do have to put the generator on for that. But everything else is all hand done.
Yes. Yeah, we are.
Have you got a
Yeah.
battery as well for the house?
Yeah, we've got a couple 2 battery banks, but it's all quite minimal. You know, we don't.
So yeah, we have 240 volts AC. I mean, yeah, we have inverters and stuff, so it's basically 240 volts AC. But then in the winter, yeah, we don't have enough power to run big kit, so we have a generator. And then in the winter, it's been like being in a U-boat. We have to like charge the batteries for 2 or 3 hours a day because there's not enough sunshine.
Yeah.
But
So
in the summer, we've got a lot of power generally. Yeah. 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 If anyone has, if anyone's like, oh bloody hell, they are going on too much, or alternatively,
No.
that sounds fascinating. I really want to hear more about.
So Beck would happily talk to you about your being off grid for days. It's
right.
Just
Okay,
interesting.
well we can have a separate off.
yeah, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Now I've opened the 2020 bottle,
Let's
right,
do
okay,
it.
let's
Come
do
on.
it.
and it's quite different.
Mm.
Okay, shall we get another glass? And we can.
Yes.
Oh no.
Well, yes, no, yes. No, I'm kind of.
uh,
Yeah. Well, it will.
Ed, how it's different.
I need to try it again.
What stands out to you?
It's not quite as
Throw it in a sack.
yeah, that kind of the zingy toffee front of palate flavor that comes in the 2021 bottle. It's a lot softer. It's not quite as sort of it's not kicking me in the face saying, hi, I'm a really new fresh cider. It's something a bit more refined about it. Let's put it that way. What do you think?
Yeah, you can totally tell how it's sister to the one that we just had, kind of thing, but it's had the time and it's softened and it's opened out a little bit, and it's opened out, I think. There's a kind, like a very, very front of mouth kind of dry intensity about the 2021 one, but this one is a bit smoother. I don't know what it is, but I'm not. The Somerset Redstreak one, I really did get the kind of fruit at the end, and I feel that this is a bit less of that.
I think it's quite austere in a way, and then it's got it's got more carbonation, which gives it more, which kind of gives it more acidity anyway, because it's because of the carbonic acid. And I think like Joe would, who's very good, Joe who was here earlier, would be going, oh, this is flinty, and I kind of not exactly flinty, but it's got that kind of
minerality to it.
It's got a minerality, and it's quite austere, and it's kind of at an in-between place, which is what happens is in our experience of doing kind of oldish ciders is you get a point where it's to begin with, it's got a little bit of residual sugar, and it's got quite a fat mouthfeel, and it's got lots and lots of kind of upfront toffee, and it's very vigorous, and like, as I say, like kind of rabbits fighting in a sack or something, but I say like delicious toffee covered rabbits, and then it goes into quite an austere kind of place.
Yeah.
And I pretty much know that in another couple of years, if we have any of this left, it's going to soften up again and regain more of a kind of fat middle of the mouth feel. And whether that's malolactic fermentation, I'm not very hot on the actual kind of technical what's going on.
Yeah.
And I only know it on an experiential level of our experience of having, having ciders and having different iterations from each year. So yeah, I mean, I like its kind of, I like the austerity of it, and
it's nice, yeah. And that first, so the 2021, I've just come back to that, and as well as that toffee mouth, that toffee flavor, there's also sort of it's quite sherbety.
Mm-hmm.
that zing. It's like a sherbet dip sort of thing. If you remember those from your childhood.
So, like I did mention briefly. So the 2020, we separated this one. So quite a lot of the early sharps and dessert fruit were taken out of this and pressed separately. So I think that's definitely had an impact on it. It's probably less acidic.
Yeah, it has a higher proportion of tannic, much higher proportion of tannic fruits, because we basically in retrospect we should have sent out the prospect knoweth as well to like. But anyway, no, it is available. So like, if you want to do some further research, So I just say I think this is going through its kind of 2-year-old quite austere phase, and I think it will. If you had your butler lay down a few cases for you in a couple more years' time, it's going to kind of fatten up again.
So because all of our ciders are live, so we don't add sulfites, we don't pasteurize, we don't stop it or stabilize it in any way. They're always changing, which is really exciting because you do get to see the way they change and develop. They go through malolactic fermentation, they soften up again, they sweeten up a little bit. So it's kind of, they start out a little bit sweet and then they go through this kind of quite hard phase, and then they soften up and sweeten up a little bit again.
Well, the perception of sweetness.
The perception of sweetness, even if it's not actually sweeter. Anyone else have any thoughts on either of these two?
Jack, anything to throw in the ring?
I was going to say I'm definitely getting more tannin in my mouth on this 2020 than 2021. Yeah, I can. Is it as astringent or is it the fizz? But the tannin levels are definitely higher. I feel that on the teeth. That's really interesting to hear you say about that awkward 2-year phase, though. It's fascinating to think when you choose to release one of your ciders, it's going to evolve once, twice, maybe 3 times over the years. And when do you then choose the right moment to release it? That must be quite a nervous experience.
It is, and I think that's something that Bill's really good at, because I tend to be quite critical, and I'll taste something and I'll think, oh, that's not right. And Bill's always really good at knowing that's gonna go. That fault will go. It's not a fault. It'll change. It'll evolve past that. Whereas I'm always quite nervous about it and waiting for that. Yeah, for example, our 2019 Dabinet that we released. It's always been a bit challenging for me, and it hasn't been my favorite cider. But we released it, and it was good, and it got a lot of positive feedback, and people liked it. But we just sent it out again with our cider club that we do now, because we saved back 2 cases of it, and it's perfect now.
Yeah, it's freaking amazing. We got 2 cases left,
and it's
1 case.
If we had infinite space and finances, we might have saved that for since 2019 and brought it out now.
Yeah,
but it's a balance of
how much space.
I don't know if you remember, 2019 was a cold, wet summer, and it was and actually we did a Dabinet blend and we called it Petrichor because it had that, Petrichor is like the smell of rain on dry rock or ground, and it has a very kind of
has that about it. That smell.
That kind of that very specific thing, and it's quite esoteric and kind of interesting. And I suppose one thing I'd say about this particular vertical tasting is what we do and generally try to do is we're really into the fruit. So we make everything from a single variety Cox's Orange Pippin, which is almost more like a sort of, it's getting to be a sort of white wine style, although I'd argue much nicer because it's alive and not mucked about with. But so we do that, and then we'll do super tannic. Normally our Borders Bittersweet is Hereford Redstreak and Bloody Butcher, and it's crazy tannic, And then so we have so many different we're into making lots of different iterations of very, very different ciders, and the things that make them all different really is the apples, and then when we choose the bottle, We don't rack off stuff at all, or we don't really.
Apart from when we do.
Apart from when we do, but generally we don't. We're not kind of very technical cider makers. We're not like, oh, we better rack it off now and do that. The general philosophy is the least mucking about with it. And so with like our IBCs, generally once the apple juice has gone in there, we'll tighten them up and then unclick them a quarter turn, and we will leave it till the spring. And then both of us will kind of say, oh, I think that one's probably going to be ready now. And we'll siphon the bottle out, and it usually is ready, and then we bottle it. We don't do we leave it on the lees. We leave everything on the lees most of the time. Having said that, we have done a bit of cold racking this year just for fun, but most of our production is matured on the lees. And occasionally we like do a bit of batonnage and it's bottled on the lees as well, because there's so many, like the sort of the autolysis of the yeast and everything gives you so many great kind of buttered toast flavors, and that's really what we're after, is like super depth of flavor, both from the fruit and then also with what happens with natural fermentation. And I suppose the only things we're really, I think both of us, acetic definitely is a fault, for us. Sort of Asturians may disagree, but acetic or mouse or anything like that, we're very, very sensitive to not putting out anything that has either any of those faults. And if anyone ever does have anything from us that they think, oh, that's a bit dodgy, we would really like to hear from them, and we want to know. I think. Well, we should open the.
So the next is the 29th.
So the 2020 is as you say, it was the year.
Yeah, that's the one. So the 2019.
Did you want to ask a question?
Can I ask a question? Just as a couple who's like had a shitty little go at making a little bit of cider
Shitty
in the kitchen.
Come on.
We had fun.
Nothing shitty about it.
Like this is like so domestic, but it still leads me to ask the question. Well, once you've finished and you've bottled it, like you've got the lees left, you've got all of that sludge left that you don't sediments, yes, that you don't want to go into the bottles. Like, what do you do with it, and what do you do with all of your pomace? Like, how? Because sorry, this is so like domestic. So obviously, like I've got all this shit in like compost bins, thinking like, oh my god, it's going to make my soil really acidic.
So there's not that much sludgy, yeasty stuff, and it just, luckily we've got 6 acres, and it just goes back in. Back into the land. For the pomace, it mostly goes to other people's animals.
Oh yeah.
So again, we live in a really agricultural area. There's animals, they eat it.
Great. If you've got, last year's went on an area of bracken I wanted to get rid of, because basically it'll kill anything. It's basically.
So this is interesting. So we haven't really been drinking the 2019 or 2018 in years, so it's quite exciting to go back and see what they've done. So Bill's giving a really good demonstration of how to taste our cider. You've got to make the noises and
chewing.
Yeah, you need to chew it, and you need to warm it in the mouth, because it's, I don't know, it depends how cold you have yours. Ours just,
oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, and you can see what I mean about it fattening up.
Whoa. Right, try that.
Are we allowed to say it's amazing?
I think we're allowed.
It's amazing.
Technical notes.
That is amazing.
Yeah, it fucking rocks, as they say in the Concours de Vin. Alors, chic alors.
I've got a dilemma. Do I open it, as it's just me cracking open 6,
yes.
7?
Yes.
Do it.
Do it as I could say.
To the bottle.
I've worked out. I've decided having 3 bottles open is enough for just me.
If you put a cap on it, it will be happy in a cool place for a week or 2.
But this way, I can look forward to another 3 tomorrow.
That's true.
That's true.
Yeah. You have to do what's right for you. But
no, we're not going to force you.
So this, I would say, was.
Well, we are going to force Jack.
Yeah.
This one, I would say, was harder and more austere than the 2020 was last year.
Yeah.
So that kind of awkward period, I feel like this has come out of on the other side now. So whether that's, whatever kind of, I don't know.
It's alchemy, isn't it? Once many years ago, the Welsh Cider and Perry got Peter Mitchell to do a tasting and a little talk at one of the things, and I asked him about it, and he was just like, "Well, no, anyway, yeah." So technically, I don't know what the technical thing is, but it's to me, and there's a tiny little note of oxidation in it, but not bad oxidation. It's not in a sort of like sort of marsala or like it's something.
Yeah.
It's good oxidation. It's not.
It adds to it, doesn't it? It's not. It doesn't detract from the cider whatsoever. And like you said, it's sort of marsala kind of wine. It's there is that.
Yeah, or like you get like these kind of sort of sherry, almost like kind of dry sherry type flavors and things going on. I suppose also one of the big flavors in all of what we're doing, there's a lot of kind of almondy or apricot kernel, all that kind of stuff. And I suppose what you're aiming, so the youngest one you tried, you can taste all those flavors like bashing about, and they're all still here as it ages, but they become a bit more melded and a bit more civilized and kind of generally. For me, this is almost like optimum. So this was a difficult year. This was
it just
weather-wise, it was
all
pretty
summer.
shite,
It was not a lot of
I'm not
sunshine.
What's the ABV on that?
I don't know 2019.
I did a lot of schlepping up and down to Northfield with Ruben in the summer.
So this one is 6.8%, whereas most of the prospects we get are about 7.2, 7.3. So that reflects, the year and the amount of sugar it got.
Sunshine, yeah.
So if you think also, so our trees, the main orchard you planted in 2004, 2005.
Yeah.
So on full standard rootstock, they take a long time to get into maturity, especially up here.
Especially up here to get into production,
So 2016 was kind of our first year of doing the prospect cider on its own without bringing in other apples to blend in with it.
Yeah.
And every year the trees are producing more, but they're also just becoming better, and the fruit is better, the quality is better. They're really growing into themselves. And I think you can see that, so even though the 2021 wasn't necessarily ready and it's a bit shouty and fighty right now, you can tell what I think that the quality of it has improved, and if you give it long enough to settle in, it'll be better than this one is.
Yeah, so I mean, basically, it's all got chops, if you know what I mean. It's like, and and you got the thing with us as well is we're totally making what tickles us, and we're following a path of, and like, you just have to assume that if you're passionate about something and you think, that's absolutely rocks, you just have to hope that there's enough people out there who agree with you that it absolutely rocks, if you want to make a living doing it, Unfortunately, we seem to have hit kind of that, I guess. Yeah.
Have we just done the Boris Johnson era prospect orchards, 2019 to 2021?
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely.
I don't want that taste in my mouth.
Yeah, that's really beautiful.
No,
that's the one.
Thanks, Jack.
Sorry.
That's beautiful.
Cheers to that.
Yes,
Thanks. Thank you, Jack. I don't know how to follow that.
No, not really.
Yeah, so I don't know. Lisa, got anything to say? You're busy eating.
There we go. Oh, yeah.
Joe's back. Hello, Joe.
Hello, Joe.
Hi guys.
Have you got a favourite so far, Lisa? 3?
I know why you're saying the 2021 isn't ready yet.
Yeah.
But it's definitely there for me. It's the tannins in there, and I can see it's going to be amazing. The 2020, I think the 2019 is really good. I really love that. It's just, it's taking me somewhere, and I can't really tell you where, but it's taking me somewhere, and it's nice.
So the 2020 is definitely, I think it's going to be better than the 2019. It just needs to, as I say, it's in its difficult, it's kind of like teenage years, you know?
No, I can actually
But-
see the tasting them all. I'm thinking, oh yeah, that's gonna, oh yes, and that you just need to have them. Wait a bit.
So, Joe, just catch you up, Joe. We've just
Yeah.
done the 2021, 2020, and now we've just started the 2019.
Lovely.
So we're working backwards through time.
As Jack beautifully said, we've just done all the Boris Johnson years.
Which just kind of ruined it for us a little bit.
To be fair, if
Yeah.
I'd been drinking this over the Boris Johnson years, I would be much happier. Yeah.
So we've kind of found the 2021. So we haven't actually released that yet, but we put it in this case just to compare. The 2021 is quite shouty and aggressive still. The 2020 is delicious, but going through its kind of austere, terrible twos.
I like that flush of youth that it has when they're young. I do really like drinking this. Yeah, and I think that it is a much more effective gateway drug away from wine pet nat into cider for those people that haven't seen the light. I think that, you know, if you're drinking pet nat wine, you know, naturally the alcohols are slightly higher, the acidity is a little bit leaner. It doesn't have the same texture or extract, of course, but it has that really sexy little sweet sort of eating apple sweetness in the middle, which I think makes it taste very, very vinous. You know, I would love that with some oysters or a bit of fish or something. It'd be fantastic, wouldn't it? And I think the cider lovers like that, like this sort of style as it evolves away from that. But the person like me who, but sadly has to drink wine all day every day, I have a connection with that drink, and I think it's much easier when I show my friends a young prospect for them to understand it. Then you can lead them down the development flavors and get people used to them. But I think the 21 tastes, pardon my French, fucking delicious. It's absolutely delicious. I've just
That we've got right now.
That's what I've got. Yeah, I wouldn't trust myself to hold on to a box of that. I'd have to let you look after it for me. Very, very
That's
nice.
all right. We haven't actually released it yet, so you're all right.
You know, just can you stick 6 in the corner and I'll bring some wine and do a swap.
Yeah.
Nice. Well,
I mean, oh yeah. That's not... Right, 2020. As you were, I'll catch up.
So while Joe's catching up, I will try once more to share a couple of pictures. Oh, hang on. Wait for it. Excuse me, Mr. Zoom.
You have to do something else.
I know I have to do something else. Hang on. I'm getting it pulled up this time beforehand.
Oh, right. 2020.
Okay. So this is a bit of a harvest pick.
Can you see these, folks?
Yeah, got it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. This is our high-tech
harvesting
technique.
operation. And look, here's one from 2019 as well. That's our lovely little brew in the blossom. And that year we also had these lovely fellas helping us in the orchard, which are now all gone, but they did a good job of clearing things up.
They did great, and they were delicious.
Did they make cheese or just meat?
They made meat and poop, and they were great.
Yeah,
that's what you want.
They look very, very tasty.
And
let's see here. Years.
It was also the year of the high-vis trousers.
Have you moved past that phase, or have you gone for a different colour?
We've luckily those pants have dissolved. They're no longer. So whenever anyone's asking us for pictures, it's always quite hard because usually we're completely covered in filth, soaking wet, and wearing horrible clothes. So
I reckon you got those overalls from the hacienda in the late 80s.
Yeah,
they look like boiler suits you might have danced in rather than.
Okay, so enough of that. Right, that's okay. So that's yeah. So okay, so where are we? So the 2018 Okay, so 2019 was the year we started doing pet nat cider. And before then, we didn't. So it was a bit of a kind of learning curve. And I'd like to say that all of those prospects, the 2021, 2020, and 2019, were very civilized in terms of the amount of fizz. I felt really happy with them.
Yeah,
There
really
were
good.
no explosive bottles. I think they were all kind of carbonated exactly how I would want them to be.
Yeah.
Which was really nice. So 2018 is not, is still.
There should be a tiny.
So I haven't
50
actually, we
ml.
haven't actually tried this. have we?
Go and pour me a decent slurp and I'll. All right.
So this one's going to be quite different from the others.
It's
It-
quite a lot.
it was
lighter
incredible, yeah.
colour.
I mean, it was fantastic for all other sort of horticulture, and it was a second to none best wine vintage since the sack of the monasteries. For 500 years.
Was it really?
Yeah, 18 was really a standout, and it was really about when we had really high quality photosynthesis, good gamma light rather than heat during the 18 year. 2018, you remember? I don't know if you remember, was incredibly sustained warm summer.
Hot
But
all
there
the
was
way through.
there was actually times when it wasn't as hot, but the sun was still there. So you
Yeah.
got incredible phenolic ripeness in the fruit, in certainly in Chardonnay and stuff in the south of England. But I loved all the 18s I've tried from you guys, and I don't think I've tried this since we sat in your living room where you are now eating cheese. I think that was
Joe, forgive me. I have to ask. You seem very knowledgeable about all of this. What is it that you do? What's your background? I'm curious.
I'm a nerd.
Great.
No, so I'm a qualified winemaker. I studied
Okay.
winemaking, and I used to be a supermarket drinks buyer for first Obbins, then Sainsbury's, then Waitrose.
Okay.
And then I became a writer and a journalist. Co-hosted BBC Food and Drink with Tom Kerridge for a couple of years. And then now I can't stop the free samples. So
Excellent. Sounds like a jolly nice
on a
life.
daily basis. So instead, I decided that TV was it paints a very coloured picture of what we all want to see. Even the BBC I found very frustrating to work with. And so I now have a channel which I haven't done anything on for a while, but I've got a channel called the Drinks Coach UK on YouTube, where I've mentioned these ciders lovingly on many occasions. I during lockdown got sort of alcohol Tourette's. My wife just get fed up with me talking about it, so she said just film it instead. And I did 164 shows.
Wow.
Yes, I'm just about to start a new series. I just want to make it a bit more professional. But the whole thing is to talk about anything to do with alcohol. It may be one day I'm talking about straight rye from American whiskies, maybe it's stouts, maybe it's wines from Greece, and I'll just get up one day, and the idea is it's totally unscripted. I talk often without breathing for 30 minutes, and then that's that, and I just take the first take, and the whole idea is to be just an honest opinion, not to look coloured. And I think that sometimes people need honest answers to things, and I feel that I'm experienced enough to be able to give people at least an amusing, if sometimes hypercritical, point of view about these things. And but please have a look.
I'd love to. So, do you want to stick your YouTube channel you've got that you do it on?
Yeah, stick it on the chat.
Stick it on the chat. I'd be really interested to look at that, and I'm sure others would be too.
Can I just say that Joe has been like a really inspirational and kind of a tireless advocate and encourager of us, and we're really,
He showed up
since day one.
He showed up at one of our wasp sales.
Yeah,
he showed up at a wasp sale and like drank everything. He just tried everything we had.
Basically,
I ate 2 kilos of cheddar as well.
It was a friends of the landlord kind of thing, and we played traditional music, so we had this session going, this music session, and it wasn't really a wide open thing, so we were just pulling out all this weird and wonderful shit and going, oh, try this and everything, and we didn't know Joe at all, and there was this guy sitting in the corner going, this is fucking fantastic, oh, this is great, this is a revelation, and he turned out it was Joe. So yeah, we've known him for many years, and
good friend now.
Yeah.
So 2018, here we go.
Yeah, go for it.
So this one's quite different. So it's still number 1. Number 2, as Joe said, it was an amazing year. It was So I'm from California, for anyone who didn't pick up on that. But
You sound
so-
far too sophisticated.
so where I grew up, it's all every summer you're constantly worried about wildfires, and it was the first time since living here I actually sat Bill down and I was like, right, what happens if the field catches on fire? Because it was dry, everything was brown. I've never seen it like that before. And the trees did fine. We didn't lose any apple trees. We lost a couple others. Didn't we lose like an oak and a birch or something?
Yeah, but the apple trees are so strong. They're
The
so
apple trees
tough.
were great. They were fine.
Yeah.
But we
It's in
did think if this goes
complement-
on any longer, we'll have to irrigate. But they were fine. What is this? It's only 6.4 actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. I think that's what's so wonderful about it. The anthocyanin ripeness. It despite all that fruit concentration, it dances about in the mouth. It's a little bit more deft on its feet than the others. I think it's a beautiful drink. This, and I suppose Chava, that the pet nat's a big seller for you, isn't it? It's probably quite a popular style. But it'd be lovely to see you make both of them. Maybe make a
We are going back to making more still this year as well. We did a bit more last year. I think it's quite addictive, the pet nat. It's addictive to do.
Yeah.
We really like it. It's very popular.
You also, from a sort of bio.
Well, it's so thirst quenching, isn't it, with the extra CO2?
Well, and there's also there's a couple of things. There's the tannins get balanced by the carbonic acid. And also there's a sort of biosecurity thing. So with the pet nat, if you've got positive CO2 pressure, it'll be interesting to come back, because I think some of these pet nats will keep for 8 or 10 years because the keeping qualities, so when you open this, there is a tiny psh, and there's been a tiny bit of malolactic fermentation, which gives you a bit of positive pressure. But obviously with the pet nat, you're like, once you've got that bottle, you pretty much know that's not going to oxidize much,
No,
and actually this has oxidized a bit, but not in a bad way. I think it's just adds to the fatness of it, know.
It's funny. It's almost like allowing the bottles to have a natural ferment. You're creating a saturated blanket pressure in the bottle, so it evolves more slowly. And sometimes, because it's already taken us 5 years to taste the real deliciousness in some of these ciders, so the flat ones will evolve a bit more quickly. So for those people that are real cider freaks, I think it becomes very impatient for a pet nat to come round. You have to wait 7 years. I think this is absolutely the best one out of all of them, flat or fizzy. I think the 18 is the winner.
I was going to say, when I first poured this, straight away on the nose, slightly oxidized. Then 2-3 minutes with us just talking and swirling it around, that's completely gone, and it's it's like you've pulled a curtain back, and you can then smell a slightly different cider behind it. And I guess it's like you'd pour a wine into a decanter and leave it to air for a bit if it was aged. It's just
It's got a quince cheese kind of quince paste, quince leather kind of quality about it, which I love.
Interestingly, I've just done a very quick backup the line from 18 all the way to 21, and you can very, very definitely tell, and obviously they are from the same orchard, but you can tell. I think if you stuck the bottles in front of somebody in a blind tasting and said, tell me where these are from, are they from the same place or a different location, I think you'd probably be fairly it'd been fairly obvious that they were very similar, and that you probably, if you said they were all from the same orchard, you wouldn't be far wrong.
There's a wonderfully complex DNA, but it's there, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's stamped all over. This is Prospect. It's that cross between the complex aromatics and that it's got this like Tokyo bullet, this momentum of acidity and freshness as well, which makes it taste it's so breathtaking. It's just refreshing. It just takes your breath away. I think it's a brilliant cider.
Lisa, what do you think of the 2018?
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. The 2018 is amazing, absolutely amazing. It's got everything. I'm a sucker for pet nat, but that has got everything I want in a cider. It's just the nose is just so fruity and a little bit bratty. It's nice. I love it.
It's quite wild. It's it's kind of everything. I struggle to have, you know, when you go back years and you had something that was just perfect, and you drink loads and you're just waiting for that connection back to that one you had years ago. That for me, that's my sort of cider, and yeah, it's taken me a long time to find, but thank you.
Oh, well,
so if everyone, so having tasted all these, so I think what Joe said is absolutely right. Like the pet nats, you kind of think of a pet nat in one way as being really instant and it's fresh and young and you drink it young, but actually for our ciders, they do actually take longer to age. And I think that, like, I love the 2019 as well, and that wasn't a particularly great year. Who would, if we were going to do a vote, so for Prospect 2022, would you bottle it still or pet nat? So hands up for still?
Really tough.
Oh,
Yeah, I'd go still.
you know what?
Three?
Can we say?
Oh, Joe, you've frozen, Joe.
We say
it's frozen.
He's frozen in ecstasy. He's so happy.
What about doing half and half?
That's coming, I think. I think as we have more fruit, we'll have more ability to play around with it, you know?
Hang on.
Joe's still frozen there, looking like he's having a lovely time.
He is looking frozen in ecstasy, isn't he?
Yeah.
Can you?
Which
I don't know. I'd kind of like to try them all in sequence. Should we
do you want to go back? Do you want to go forwards again?
Yeah,
Here's
go forwards.
2019.
Okay, thank you.
So we've gone back, and now Bill's going forwards again.
Like you can't
Back to the future.
I was going to say Back to the Future.
So interestingly, we've always done the Borders bittersweet. We've always done that still, and I think there is something about these kind of really tannic, chewy, lovely, rich ciders that I think still works very well for them. Whereas we kind of started the pet nat with more like Cox's Orange Pippin and lighter ciders, which I think works really well because they're not as full bodied, not as quite not as chewy, you know, and they kind of work quite well like that.
So the Cox that we're going to release this year is extremely complex and interesting and has masses going on, and it's got like waxy apple. But yeah, the acidity from carbonic acid does give another thing. And you know, all of these pet nats, if you decanted them and left them for 24 hours, they would just develop so much more flavor. I mean, I suppose that's one of the things about making fizzy ciders per se, is like a lot of the stuff we're making, if you decanted it if you put it in a decanter and left it for 24 hours, it would develop so much more complexity and flavor, because again, just letting the air see it, and you know, and that's another tasting, is taking all these pet nats, decanting them and drinking them 24 hours later, because actually you'll lose most of the carbonation, but you will gain, when the oxygen gets to it and the air gets to it, you will gain another and you know, we're still playing with this, and ideally I'm hopefully going to live to be about 350, you know, having been 100% immortal. So yeah, that's you know, we're just really at this stage with our orchard where we can just play with it now, and it's so exciting. It's a really exciting time, you know.
So, I mean, the 2018, I mean, that's a 5-year-old cider now, which not a whole lot of people are doing, you know, it's quite unusual. So we've got a cider club, so people sign up and they get 3 shipments a year. And we always put in a couple of new releases, so new things that are coming out all the time. And then we always try to revisit something kind of old and different and interesting. So we've put in the Prospect Orchard 2018 into this season cider club, and we've only got a couple of cases of it left. So we thought, like, and I feel like it's absolutely perfect right now. It's absolutely delicious. But I think I would guess it wouldn't be as good next year. I think it's kind of great right now.
I was thinking, do we dare to dream that it could get better? But it's already the best cider I've ever drunk. So I mean, it's kind of,
drink it.
you know, where do you go from here? It's just, I mean, this is such a stunning product. And the way of drinking, I think because the ABVs aren't as high as they are in other alcoholic drinks, unfortunately, the window of perfection is never much more than about a year, is it? But I wouldn't risk keeping this another year. I think I'd drink
No.
at a very big party.
No, that's why when we only had 4 cases left, so I thought, right, that's going out to Cider Club members now.
It's fantastic. Fantastic cider.
This must
So-
make you very proud to try through 5 vintages of your releases like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, because it's not just the cider and this, like, yes, it's gorgeous, it's wonderful cider, it's so much, but it's also everything we've done here. It's the trees we've planted and that they're developing and growing and working, and it is very, very exciting. And the things that you can't see that's gone into this are, so you saw the video at the beginning of where we are in the place and how it looks now, but it was just an empty field with some sheep on it. There was nothing here.
Yeah,
Everything that's here we've done, and so we've planted trees, we've made windbreaks, we've kind of created this environment, and it's amazing. It's filled with all different species of wildflowers and butterflies and
Meadow.
the kind of wildlife and biodiversity that's come out of this place since we've had the opportunity to manage it is just stunning. What's come from just a kind of overgrazed field into this amazing place is really great. And I think that even if you just bought this off the shelf and you don't know that, I'd like to think that some of that kind of picture has gone into it, and you can somehow taste the place even without knowing us and being here.
Can I ask you something about? I mean, this is a question I couldn't have asked you when we first met because the story just begun. But I presume that the reason why there was 300 or so varieties in Prospect 2016 is so you had a crop. I mean, that was your first crop, wasn't it? Pretty much. So, did you immediately see the benefit in possibly just continuing that story rather than separating out the different varieties? See, you now got a multi-dimensional 3D cider here, which is the sum of all those parts. It's sort of like mass or selection of different apple varieties, which I don't suppose this story you can't now decide to it's now what I think what you're going to be, that you're famous for is this cider because it's so individual. Do you imagine further down the line of going back to concentrating on cider varieties and going back to blending, or are you going to just let nature take its?
So what we do is we've got our Prospect orchard, and that is what it is. And I don't really want to mess with it. I was saying what you missed is there was one year where we pulled out some of the earlies and separated it into 2 pressings. But generally, the Prospect orchard is Prospect orchard. And if we want to do different things and single varieties and blends, we can get that fruit from other places that we love as well.
Hello, Neil. Sorry.
So the last one that we're going to try, which we can open up in a minute, is not from here, Kingston Black. And again, that's a Herefordshire grown. We've got this grower that we work with, and he, next to his farm,
He's a local boy.
Yeah, he knows everything. He knows all the little bits and bobs. So next to his farm, there's 1 row of old Kingston Blacks that aren't used because it's not commercially viable. It's not whatever. They're unsprayed, they're unused, they're neglected, and he can get them for us, and it makes an amazing cider. So basically, Prospect orchard is Prospect orchard, and anything we want to play with, we can get from here and there, and we can play with it.
And I suppose that the Kingston Black one, I think there is an austerity and a sort of, there's a sort of rocky gunpowderiness to the Prospect orchard. Even the fatter ones that are fattened up again, they're still like, it's kind of quite austere in a way. I suppose the Kingston Black is like a lowland kind of, it's like the Shire, it's a Herefordshire kind of, like, it's got that fat, it's got that kind
very
of
different quality.
it's a different quality, which is delightful as well. And
but it's brought here and it's fermented with our yeasts in our place, and it's kind of a funny hybrid.
And I guess we've had a relationship with these folks, and it's just over the border in Cambridge. It's only like 35 miles from here, and we've had a relationship with them for nearly 20 years, or I have, And
should we open it?
Yeah, let's open it.
Can I just say something, Chava, about you were just saying about the sort of the rejuvenation of the wildlife and the nature and the biodiversity on your land. I have to say, like after last summer's heat waves, which were obviously unprecedented in the UK, I kind of hit a bit of a new low in terms of anxiety because of the way that the climate and biological genocide is going. And I find it like really encouraging to sort of I live for these stories of where people have taken over places and in just a few short years have allowed that space for, it sounds very trite to say, like for nature to heal itself, but like that can happen, that you can.
Well, it absolutely can. And the really exciting thing is it's not like, oh, we've put so much work into this,
We
we've
haven't
sought
planted
out all
anything.
these species and put them in. It
They
comes
come.
back.
Yeah.
So in the middle of our orchard, so you saw like where it goes behind our house and then it goes steep down.
Yeah.
That's an oak woodland with in the spring it's filled with bluebells. And right in the middle of our orchard, there's little singly bluebells coming up everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you leave it alone, it will come back.
Yeah, it's
it
making
will
a
do
space.
what
And-
it wants. So we've got yellow rattle everywhere. We've got all sorts of amazing
stuff. Nothing. We haven't planted any orchard mix or anything, but like every single year, 1 or 2 new varieties of wildflower
come
appear
back. Yeah.
and have been establishing.
And
Yeah.
it's just amazing. And it's not just us. There are people all over doing amazing projects. And yes, there's a lot of doom and gloom and climate change and all these things happening, but then there's also really great things happening all over. And
Do you have any? I saw that there were lots of individual buildings on your site through that. Do you have any like
No, you ain't seen us, right?
ecotourism type things? Because I just the sorts of
I want
places
to stay in the
I'd like to
circus.
bring my
circus
children
lorry.
to sort of show them like what we're reading Beatrice Potter right now, and I don't know what a fucking rose's pincushion even looks like. I mean, just
so we love when people come to visit. So every weekend we do orchard tours and cider tastings. So people come up from all over and have a taste of cider, have a walk around, look at what we're doing. We've got very minimal kind of basic camping available if anyone wants to come and stay. Cider all over my lap.
This is off the hook. Ed,
yes, I mean we're very open and what's that face, Ed? What's going on there?
We're both
Fucking amazing.
It's just astonishing.
Is that not one of the coolest?
Carry on, but
Kingston
I'm
Black.
just going to sit here and just yeah.
I've drunk a bunch of Kingston Blacks, so I'm sure a lot of the cider lovers here probably have. But there's always like a gothic, like dark noir line of austerity that doesn't cross. But this one has unbelievable flavour and warmth and extract. I mean, it's like you've tamed the beast a little bit. I don't know, or maybe the exact opposite of that. You've let the beast be the beast, and it's got incredible balance. I mean, the one problem I've had with Kingston Black is I've always said it was a blending variety. It's always really hard to drink on its own, but this is amazing.
No, we've tried blending it and it doesn't work.
It's like Isla whiskey in a blend, 1%. You can still taste it. It's one of those things.
We've got a blend coming out in the next couple of years, which is because last year was an off year, so we didn't have a huge amount of Kingston Black. We have got a Kingston Black Jonah Gold, which actually it has that waxy apple skin Jonah Gold thing, which I really love. Jonah Gold's a great cider apple. It's
like the Kingston Black's always the South African with no sense of humour, and he was.
Oh, this is hilarious! This pokes you in the bum and says, "Ha ha ha!"
So
this is just fantastic.
As cider makers,
it winks at you. It's like, all right.
As cider makers, we've kind of got, there's so many different aspects of cider making, right? There's like what apples you use. There's how you ferment them. There's when you bottle them. There's so many things, so many different variables. And we do what we do. We love wild fermentation. We don't muck about with it. So these were pressed. They fermented here. We opened it and bottled it. And that's it. And this is the apple and this is what it did. And I feel like in a way.
Dry, is it?
Hmm?
Is this fermented completely dry?
Yes.
It's just
Right,
mad.
yeah, it's still alive.
So much fruit.
Yeah, so I feel like, you know, in a way, I feel like with Kingston Black, it's kind of cheating a bit. So with Prospect Orchard, it's so much hard work and it's what's gone into this place that's made it. But this is just a great apple. And I feel like it's kind of just made itself magically.
You know, I don't like Kingston Black as a variety.
I'm with you on this.
I'm going to be controversial here. Everyone raves about it. It's one of these. It's got everything. It's the best apple for making single variety ciders from. But I've had so many Kingston Blacks that I've really just, well, if I use the word thin, that probably, you know, describe it.
Austere.
Well, yeah, but I wouldn't even say that because they've been one-dimensional, boring, and if I'm brutally honest, a bit miserable. Whereas this, I've had nothing. I've never had anything like this from a Kingston Black.
You know, so what we're all about, if you haven't kind of, and the thing is, so having our cider from Prospect Orchard is really special to me. But we are all about fat, middle of the mouth flavors.
Amazing.
Everything, we're making stuff dry, but we are not into thin. When I say austere, I don't mean mean or thin. I mean, it's like a sort of, it's like a strict Presbyterian kind of, but it's like a strict fat Presbyterian. It's like, you know, and it's like, yeah, we're totally, for me anyway, and that's what I was saying earlier about like the 2020 is like, oh, that's going to fatten up again. And I don't know what the biochemical process of that is, but I know that in a year's time is going to rock because it's going to, that it's still going to have that austere kind of tannicness, but it's going to have like the
complex sugars appear over time. Those really complex, really interesting sweet fruit flavors you get, and the esters they're being made all the time in an animal as alive as this. I think, but yeah, by the way, I caught you right at the beginning when I came back, but about the 20 of the pet nats. I think 2020 is going to be amazing. I've been trying to do is pour it in my glass until the bubbles go and drink it flat. But the Kingston Black thing, there's not. It reminds me. These cider apples remind me of the story of Madeira. Right? Madeira. A lot of people think Madeira is just some evercream of Injun Backet drinking, elderly women drinking next to a piano at Christmas. But Madeira is like, it's for dockers. It's for hardcore people. It's the mezcal of wine, if you like. You know, it's got more flavor, more concentration, more acid, more sugar, more alcohol, and you have to be match fit to drink that stuff without it killing you. Madeira is incredible, but and when you open a bottle, you can leave it on the side on the Arga for 6 months, and when you come back to it, it won't change because it's already done all the oxidizing by the way they make it. It's a system called the Cantera system. But there's one variety of Madeira called Tarantes, which is incredibly rare. I think there's 1.5 acres on the whole island. And you've got Serchal, which is dry. You've got Videlio medium dry, Boal, which is medium sweet. And then you've got Malmsey or Malvasia, which is sweet. And then you've got Tarantes. And Kingston Black is the Tarantes. It's a revered and precious variety, but it's like the Eiffel Tower. It's all structure and no flesh. Do you know what I mean? There's an austerity to it, which I find impressive but not lovable. Do you know what I mean? But there's a warmth and generosity to this drink. I don't know if it's in your hands or in that particular vineyard. I don't know why this.
Because we're extremely virtuous. We're extremely virtuous people.
Well, it's a unvirtuous cider. I think it's a very, very, very bad boy. This cider. I think it's very,
the cider making angels loves. So the other thing, I suppose, is. Do go on.
Oh, it just reminded me that you haven't said your catchphrase of the evening.
What's that?
Which is our cider only gives hangovers.
Oh yeah, our cider does only give hangovers to the morally impure. So that
will be all right then.
So the other thing.
So feel free to keep drinking.
Yeah,
and don't...
the other thing I was going to say is, if you're interested, all of these ciders, in my opinion, including the pet nats, leave some in the bottom of the bottle for tomorrow and try it after 24 hours when it's oxidized a bit, because you will get even more from it. And really, all of these, if I wanted to really blow someone's socks off, I would probably decant them all and give it to them like 12 hours later. And we've actually just done a sort of full-on Surly Redstreak, which when you open the bottle, it's kind of like really, really red. And if you decant it or leave the bottle open for about an hour, this stuff is like
It's
scarlet.
dark purple. It's ridiculous.
And it's so funny as the tannins get the air to them. And with all of these, because they're quite tannic, they will mellow out and soften, and you'll get twice the flavour of them, you know. I mean, Ed, I know you've drunk it all now, but you know, you should have saved some.
No. So Beck's not been very well for the last 10 days. So I've got 6 bottles open in front of me. So like, I don't know, half an inch of each one, and I've got 6 bottles in front of me that I can have a lovely time with.
You know,
I'm going to tell Emma down the sink. I'm drinking all 6 on my own.
Well, if you wanted to decant some and or just leave them, let the air get, or do that trick of just invert them before the morning and like, okay.
Yeah, where's your mother-in-law? Get her a glass.
Yeah, she's drinking Ernest Losen Werner Sonnenur Riesling Auslese downstairs. She likes her German Rieslings, which isn't a million miles away, is it? It's not a million miles away from what we're drinking, is it? There's a lot of similar joy in that. Poor old mother-in-law. She's been very poorly. We got here to Cambridge for Christmas on December the 22nd, and my father-in-law said, "Don't tell Sheila, I've got a bit of a head cold, she'll only worry." And then Sheila went to intensive care for 3 weeks in Edinburgh, and and my oxygen sats went down to 88, and I had to go to hospital for a week. And she's still in and out of hospital. She came out of the ward yesterday, so she's been sick for 3 months because of COVID. So we're all being very nice around her, and we're all worried that we won't have much of her left for very much longer. Fingers crossed, not the case. But she's generally a very healthy woman, and I think the cider might kill her. So I'm gonna.
So you're gonna do her a favour and drink it yourself.
So, has anyone here not had our cider before?
I've never tried this cider until tonight. I confess.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Okay. Has anyone else not had them?
Ellie hadn't.
Yeah, I've not had your cider before.
John, have you had our cider before? Never had yours, no.
Oh, you're on mute, John.
No, he's not. Now he is.
Oh, now he is.
He's not on mute.
You're not on mute, John.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, because he's got his headphones plugged in, that's turned the mic off.
Yeah, I think that might be it. Well, he can chat.
He's got a good smile on his face, the lad. We're all doing
so I think, it was quite hardcore going in with the prospect. Hello. Look, we've got a child.
That's all right. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello. Come and say hello to all these people.
Weirdos on your parents' computer screen.
Me or Dad? Okay. I shall leave this lovely Bill for a moment while I
going away with our number 2.
Can I ask a question that I was supposed to out of all of the prospect launches about trees? Can I jump in about your nursery? And
yes, you may. I've got 200 left to graft, and I'm doing it in the next 2 days, and then we're planting them out, and then I'm finished.
This is your busy time of year for grafting trees, is it then?
I am grafting now. We're doing 1,000 trees this year, which is not that much for us. I mean, so 2 or 3 years ago, we were like, if we put the amount of effort we put into mucking about with trees into like the cider, it would pay us more and everything. We were going to do it, and then it's quite good, whatever hideous things I've done in this life or in past lives, like maybe actually sending out like 10 acres of orchard or 15 acres of orchard into the world every year is probably good for the soul or something, isn't it? And it is also being self-employed, one is always a bit superstitious that one might if you kind of sack off some kind of income stream, you might severely regret it in the future. So anyway, yes, we are doing trees. Do go on.
And so you're able to see who's planting trees and where in the UK from where you send them to. So are you seeing any kind of trends of like what are people interested in from your trees? You seem to sell out everything every year, so that's a great sign. Like,
well, the good thing is that people often take my suggestions. So I say, I make the graft list and say what we're going to graft, and I generally choose things that I like and that I think will do well for people. So a lot of the trends are like, oh, look, that's Hopper's favorite apple. There seem to be a lot of those planted.
We're going to take over the savannah.
Yeah.
But I think that we've got kind of a group of customers that they want to plant like heritage dessert apples, and that's kind of their thing. I'd say the majority, hello Winnie, the majority of our, can you take this one?
Yeah.
The majority of our customers plant 20 to 30 mixed cider apples. And that's what they want to do, is like they want to make small scale cider and kind of want a good mix of things to make a blend.
Smile.
Look, we got 2 hours, I'd say. That was
Joe.
Good,
do you remember
good
Joe?
going.
Hi, Winnie.
So there's Winnie, and we've got Josie here as well.
Oh, there's Josie in the background. Hi, Josie.
Come on, be on candid camera. Good night, sweetheart.
Hello, Josie. Have you got them?
Good night, girls.
I'll come and tuck you in just a little bit.
We'll come tuck you in a bit. Good girls. Good night.
I'm going to come round for a Steel Ice fan retrospective sometime soon.
Oh, yes, you like.
So I think, there are people planting all over the country. There's loads of new orchards going in all the time, which is really nice. And it's really great because we specialize in the M25. So they're full standard. So that means like proper orchard trees, and
they'll last for 100 years.
They'll last for 100 years. They make amazing habitat for all sorts of beasties. And, I think it's generally a really great thing. And
so there's this whole thing of like, oh, I'm only planting heritage fruit, and it's a bit like heritage chickens or heritage anything. It's like there's some heritage things that are great, and then there's other heritage things that they're heritage for a reason, which is like they were bloody awful and rubbish and disease-ridden, waste of space. So I'm always saying to people, why don't you plant for example, Jonah Gold's a good example. It's like it's a Jonathan Golden Delicious cross. You make big apples like this big, and they're not a very complex or interesting dessert apple. Actually, they're quite sweet. They've got a fairly boring flavor profile, but for some reason they make extremely complex and interesting cider. And so, and that's what I was saying earlier about, like, if we make cider with Cox's Orange Pippin, we leave them till they're kind of mealy and you wouldn't want to eat them. But like the flavors that come out, the aniseed flavors and the waxy apple skin and the tannins, there's loads of tannins in dessert fruit,
Yeah,
so
sorry.
You go on.
I was going to say, so there's a certain time of year when folk that are interested in buying trees start trawling the internet for different nurseries, and each nursery has one or two varieties that is kind of idiosyncratic to them. And you definitely have a few varieties that you sell year on year that are relatively easy to buy from you guys, but you don't find them in other nurseries. Are there some like Welsh varieties that you're looking to propagate that you've heard of that are kind of local to your county or a neighbouring county that for someone like me in Norfolk, I'd have just never heard of that variety otherwise, but it goes in your shop and then it's sending up that opportunity?
Well,
no, I mean, the thing is, like, we are in Wales, and we do have quite a lot of Welsh apples. I haven't really found any that have blown my mind.
Pattaya is a great variety.
Pattaya is a really good one. Okay, yeah,
and
you're right.
Bardsley's like a really great.
Pattaya is a really good bittersweet. That just does great. It's kind of a fairly mild bittersweet, but it does really well, and it's good. Vigorous and it's
covered in fruit every year.
I do like Frederick.
Yeah, but it's not very good cropper. Frederick's kind of like the Welsh Kingston Black.
Yeah, it's a bitter sharp, and it's very similar to Kingston Black, and that's quite good.
But it's a shy cropper.
No, it's good. It's just getting going.
Yeah, that's the thing as well. It's like
where you are, like 1,000 feet up in sort of north of the Arctic Circle and all that. You've already turned conventional wisdom on its head in the same way that Annie, my friend, who got me to, it was through her that I came over to see you guys. I think she was looking to buy some saplings at some point, and there are flavors in herbs and Cavallonero cabbage or watercress, if it's grown 700 feet up a Welsh mountainside next to Chemais,
Totally different.
it's next level. It doesn't taste like your regular watercress or your regular herbs. And you've already proved with your cider apples that the marginality of your climate is creating a very different expression from what could otherwise be considered fairly workaday cider varieties. I mean, I imagine, I remember you made a dab in that, didn't you, when you first started? Did you make a dab in it? I remember thinking how special that was. That was the first one I drank from you. It was a dabinet with a bit of elderflower in it. But ordinary apples in extraordinary conditions still create extraordinary fruit. And so I don't, when I look at varieties, I don't think of them as varieties. I think about varieties, but you have to include the environment, the context, and Prospect Orchard is not your average cider orchard, is it?
No, I think I don't know. I mean, there's definitely apples that do great here, and they're not always the Welsh ones. It's a bit of a mix.
I think
is there wisdom? Sorry, Bill.
You go on. No, I was just going to say.
Sorry, yeah, you first.
Over.
All right. Is there a conventional wisdom like there is with other fruit that certain varieties grow closer to the coast, like a very flat sort of like Mediterranean climate, and some really relish the hot and cold of the diurnal upper mountain in the middle of nowhere kind of thing? I mean,
I don't know anything, mate.
There definitely is, and you can there definitely is, and you can research kind of what grows in certain areas, but then it doesn't always hold true. It's just experimentation and seeing what works for you and what you like, and
yeah.
I mean, these sides these to me are the truth and the light. This is the true word of the gospel of cider. Because people drink cider. You go to so-called cider producers. I won't mention names that everyone thinks are world class. These are the best ciders in the world. And you taste it and go, they completely fuck that cider with sulfur. You immediately know that it's lost half its pleasure. And there's an honesty. This isn't like drink making. This isn't like wine making. This is like cheese making. You have total faith in your raw ingredients. You just see where it goes. And I think that's something which is ultra rare in fine drinks. It's rare enough in wine, let alone in cider. But the people that get it right, it's because you were blessed with the place you're in.
Well, the thing is we're doing it because, and most of the people we know who do other things or play music or do stupid pursuits, we do it because we're really into it. Really, it's not and like there's that kind of thing about, if you want to make a small fortune in cider, you have to have a large fortune to start with, and I think that in terms of Welsh varieties, there's this very amusing and fantastic chap called Ian Sturrock, who's kind of got that market cornered up north. He mostly does semi-dwarfing rootstocks and stuff, and we have extremely Catholic tastes in terms of heritage old varieties, but in terms of new. And as I say, we quite often do a Jonah Gold, and Jonah Gold is a fantastic cider apple. It's like and so many dessert varieties are, but basically, well, look, don't sit there with a face like a spank bottom. You've got to look cheerful if you're going to.
And what about?
I just think it's really fascinating how a marginal place that you are, and how perhaps where you've got your orchard isn't where people would have suggested that you plant an orchard. The fact that you've got so many different varieties, you've kind of really insulated yourself from every eventuality, haven't you? You can see what's going to work, and it's not like you've plumped for maybe 4 or 5 which might work, and then it turns out you're wrong about that. You're fucked now, aren't you? Because when you've had a bad year, so like you've kind of
Well, unless M25 rootstock
and really great hedging.
Ideally, you would kind of have planted a very experimental orchard, and then if someone would like to give us another 12 acres, we could plant our favorite varieties and have a chunk of each, so we could do some single varieties as well.
So we have an exciting project this summer. So there's this orchard we go to called Beambridge, and I don't know if anyone has. Jack, have you had some of our Borders Bittersweet?
Yeah,
absolutely. Many times. It's lovely.
Yeah,
I love the Borders. It's my other favourite. I love that.
So the Borders Bittersweet, we don't absolutely know, but it's this amazing 600-acre farm with very lovely, very posh people who let us.
Old Bulmers trees.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they let us pick their orchard, and she said, Right. As far as I recall, these were planted in the 70s, and they're Hereford Redstreak and Bloody Butcher. And so Hereford Redstreak, I think, is spot on because they're incredibly dense, streaky, tannic apple. And then what she calls Bloody Butcher, they're very pale yellow with this incredible kind of carmine kind of blush on one side.
Oh wow!
And I always used to think it was the Hereford Redstreaks that made it. And then the more we've done it, it's like actually when you press what she calls Bloody Butcher, they go incredibly dark, like kind of port wine color, the juice that comes out is. And I've just a couple of years ago grafted a load of, so I'm calling them Beambridge Redstreak and Beambridge Butcher because I'm not absolutely sure. And I've looked up Bloody Butcher and it's listed as a Irish cooking apple, which it definitely isn't. So anyway, we're planting about 15 Beambridge Butcher and Beambridge Redstreak this year in a sort of like vaguely with the idea of having a sort of camping area surrounded by apples. And that's going to be really exciting, is having those, because I don't know as well, like Christine's like, she's got to be in her 70s, and whether we'll still have access to those apples in 5 years' time, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure she's going to leave us the 600-acre.
Yeah, Harvard's kind of wants to have the 600-acre Shropshire farm, but I think that's not necessarily a realistic.
She really likes you, though.
She does really like me, but not that much.
You've got to work on that. Work on that, mate.
Yeah.
Everyone has to take one for the team sometimes. But I would say, I was just hearing what was said earlier, that when I've been to your farm, maybe just pop by to see if you're available, and nearly not got off the hill because the road's so steep and it was full of snow and wind and hail, and I've driven over the mountains from a Cunliffe and almost needed to have to bivvy down in a field somewhere on the way back. And I always say to people, because they ask, who should I go and buy saplings from? I said, look up this website, Welsh Cider. And they say, well, are they reliable saplings? They're reliable cutting. I said, you've got to go and see it, because if it grows there, it'll grow on the moon.
Yeah.
It'll grow on the moon. You must have an incredible success rate from your saplings.
we get good. Can I just say that that Lisa, Johnny and Erwin win the prize for the best nibbles, and I'm quite jealous, really.
Yeah,
you're proper civilized.
It is really civilized.
That Fennel Army, a little bit of.
Thank you very much.
Have you guys got a sort of full tasting menus to go with the ciders?
I have, mate. Come on.
You have, haven't you?
Of course we have. No, we haven't.
No? But
Just had dinner.
certified familiar.
Have what you had for dinner. Has it worked with the ciders that you've been trying?
Actually, I had peanuts, very salty peanuts to start with, and actually I think that spoiled the taste of the cider. But some of the combinations have worked very well. Especially the cheesy ones.
There's a brie which I can't remember which was it. 2018, I think. I think there was a brie which is really nice with that. And, I don't know if we got sliced apple as well, and that's it seems like wrong having apple with cider.
It's quite
one of the things I like with the prospect when it's young is just chucked oysters with a hot piece of fried chorizo on top. They got the salty ham, and then you've got this briny cucumbery undertone, and you just wash that down with cider. That's pretty mad. That's delicious. And I don't think anything in the world goes better with cheddar than Kingston Black. That's the ultimate world's greatest match of cheddar, isn't it?
I fully agree.
Good night, guys.
Harvey, I had a final tree question then. So your Welsh Mountain Cider, have you also trademarked Welsh Mountain Perry to lead into your aerial footage of your Perry pear trees? Are you doing Perry? Are there going to be some Perry on the market soon?
There will be. Well, I don't know. I haven't tasted it yet. There will hopefully be some this year.
Amazing.
I'm so excited about
that. We've only managed to do about 20 litres from our fruit, which we promptly drank. But so the guy who we get these Kingston Black from, he he was like, oh yeah, you know, in my yard there's this massive tree and it always just drops its fruit and it's a big nuisance. So he harvested a bunch of Blakeney Red for us this year. So
Wow.
I don't know. I mean, you know, I know we're very, I'd say we're very committed to doing natural fermentation and not adding sulfites.
Yeah.
That's just our thing. That's what we do. And I know, like, you know, Fiona and Dave from Bartistry, they do natural cider, but they always use a little tiny bit of sulfites in their perry because they say it doesn't work without. And they have a lot of experience. So I wouldn't.
And why would they say it doesn't work? Does it promote Brettanomyces? Does it I mean,
yeah, I don't know. It just always goes off for them. So we're trying it. We'll see. We've got 220 liters of pure Blakeney Red, and then we've done a Cider as well. So a kind of partial Blakeney Red with some dessert apples blended. So we'll see. You know, we've got to taste them. That was kind of next week's project, was tasting those and seeing if they're going to be any good or not.
Very exciting.
very
And
exciting.
then so our Perry orchard, yeah, is still, you know, again, they're on seedling pear rootstock, so it's going to take a long time. But they're starting to crop. So we'll see.
Nothing in the world better with roast pork with crackling than a mature
I know.
perry.
I mean, I love it. Bill's not so nuts on Perry, but I love it. So I'm
I'm
hoping,
not
it's going to
crazy.
work.
But it takes a while, doesn't it? I mean, you have to wait 10 years for the first crop, don't you?
I mean, we waited 15 years for the apples, so it's like, you know, the pears are going to be slow, but luckily we've got children, so we'll be all right.
They can bring it to you in your dotage. Yeah, Mum.
Yeah.
On a perry.
Winnie, make me my Perry. Yeah.
Mummy can't sleep. Look, thank you, Chava, for involving me. It's been brilliant to meet you all, because I don't, in my job, I don't get to talk to people about beer and cider very often, and because I'm surrounded by posh, privileged tossers in Fulham and Clapham, and they're all they all go to a sporter, use a cross trainer 3 times a week, which isn't me, and it's just nice to just talking to you and just think about Llanid Lois, eating that amazing bread from the local baker and stuff. It just doesn't feel like it's even the same continent sometimes. I just love where you guys are, and it's good for the soul just to breathe in the air and say hello. So I'm looking forward to coming and seeing you again very soon.
Yeah, I mean, I love what we're doing. You know, it's an amazing privilege to have some land and be able to play around and press fruit and do silly things like this. It's just great. Occasionally I'm like, oh, you know, I love the apples we're getting from Herefordshire. You know, they're lovely. I also really, really, really love the orchard in Shropshire we pick from. I just love it. And part of me is like, oh, I'd quite like to have another orchard in Shropshire and Herefordshire as well, but not going to happen. But my dream world, I'd have like a triangle of orchard.
Like forced rhubarb, the Welsh triangle.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah, I don't know. Does anyone have anything else to say about any of the ciders, or any thoughts or suggestions?
I've really enjoyed all 6. I originally wasn't going to open all 6, given that it was just me drinking the majority of them. But I've really enjoyed every single one. I can't tell you what my favourites were. Actually, no, I can. The Kingston Black was incredible. And I will revisit the Prospect Orchard tomorrow, I think, just to.
Very well said. Kaleidoscopic.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I've had a really enjoyable evening, Chava. It's been amazing, and thank you for agreeing to join us on this, our first, our I suppose, relaunch after a year's break. It's probably worth saying that Jack has joined. So whilst we are labelled as Birmingham Cider Club, the only reason we were labelled as that is because Beck and I live in Birmingham, and well, there was a Manchester Cider Club, and so we thought, well, you know, we'll have a Birmingham one as well. But we have no plans to move to a physical space. So all of our cider clubs are going to be online, and I have to thank Jack for this, really, to say, you know, without Jack saying, come on, when are you going to do the next, when's the next cider club? I'll happily help out and organise it with you. If Jack hadn't done that and given me a kick in the arse, we wouldn't have done this tonight. So thank you, Jack, and welcome to the Birmingham Cider team.
It's great to join the team, and I like to think that Norfolk is an outer district of Birmingham itself.
Well, we're happy to have you. You're very welcome.
If you want my local MP is Liz Truss, so you're welcome to her.
Oh no, you can keep her. You can keep her. Could we drown her in the fens?
Yeah.
You never know what's going to happen.
Fine, lovely. We'll ignore that. But I think, I mean, my ultimate aim for this was always to do something at least quarterly. And I don't know where we'll go next or who we'll have next, but it will be nice to, you know, be able to do that. I'm sure, Jack, you'll agree with that. So watch this space. Come and join us. We are not an exclusive Birmingham club. We are here for everybody in the online space. We don't want to be, you know, solely Birmingham, because it seems that Birmingham doesn't really have much interest in this. Real shame, given that Worcestershire, Herefordshire, Shropshire are right next door to us. So there will be more. And I think tonight's flight of prospect has just been a real, a real eye opener. It's just wonderful, a wonderful way to relaunch and start again. So thanks both very much for.
Oh, thank you.
And thanks for pitching the idea of doing the vertical tasting. It's been brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, well, it's just something a bit different, and I know it's like, you know,
Not many people can do that, can they?
May not be, you know, we've got enough ciders that we could have 6 extremely different ciders and take you through them. But I think there's something really special about looking at the same one over time and how it develops. Because the thing with natural cider and live cider is that it does develop, you know, whereas so many cider makers are interested in stabilizing things and keeping them constant and not letting them change. It's like, okay, it's good. Let's keep it like that. And actually just having the faith to let it evolve and change is kind of what makes what we're doing different and special, I think.
It's magic, and it's a food. And the minute you start like whacking in sulfite and pitch yeasts and going, oh dear, we better, and it's really hard. I think it's quite. Hello, cat's bum. I think it's quite hard to make shit cider, you know? And unless we're just touched by the cider making fairies.
Ask you though, can you hear me now?
But guys, there is a magic in what you do, and I think it's partly because you do know what you're talking about. You do know what you're doing from an instinctive perspective, and you know, I think that this shows that cider making at the natural end is as artisanal as cheese making. It really is about knowing, you know, sensing when things are going right or wrong, and having the courage to let go when you're not quite sure. Not wading in trying to fix things, because you don't. These ciders are just so effortlessly expressive. There's no hindrance in the flavors. They're very open, aromatic, complex, detailed drinks, which for the price that you charge for something like this compared to maybe other drinks, certainly craft beer of the same quality costs 3 times the money.
Well, you know that because
if you bought a Dre Fontainian or a Cantillon Gers or a Creek of some standing or something like that, you're looking at 30 quid a bottle now.
Yeah, well, I should be.
Well, there will be. You know what? And I hope it is one day, because like wine, you don't need a whole bottle. You know, a glass, you can sit there and you can ruminate over it for some time. A bottle goes a long way. Certainly
sometimes you don't need a whole bottle. Sometimes you need 6.
Yeah, well, I've got these.
I'm revisiting the 2022 now.
That's still not IBC, darling.
Yeah, we haven't bottled 2022 yet. That's exciting as well. Yeah. And I would just say to everyone as well, we love visitors. The gentlemen, Lisa, Johnny, and Erwin. Are you Erwin, the gentleman with the beard?
That's
or
Johnny.
Are you Johnny?
That's
Johnny.
Do
I recognise?
No, I'm Johnny. Yeah.
Erwin,
Erwin is.
Erwin, are you from behind the Boulevard, or are you from Cape Town?
Lisa and Johnny were at
Oh, Lisa and Johnny, you were at Gabe's book launch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Erwin was at Cider Salon. No?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Gotcha.
That's it. Yeah.
Good memory.
Small world. That's the other thing, Joe, that's really funny. The cider world is so much smaller than the wine world, like the real cider world, you know.
And I've drunk good cider in South Africa. I was very surprised to see that there's people that care. And I judge a wine competition in Paarl every year, and haven't done since lockdown, which is rather sad. But the Wineland is my second sort of spiritual happy place. So there's nowhere in the world like it.
We had some amazing feedback on the Prospect Orchard. We entered the
oh yeah, that was so
we entered an unnamed competition, which wasn't specifically a cider competition.
A generic quality competition.
Competition in which cider was a category, and we were encouraged to enter it. And the feedback was,
well, first of all, we entered Pippin, Cox's Orange Pippin Pet Nat, because we thought, right, they can connect with that because it's almost dry white wine territory, and it won't scare them too much, you know.
Yeah,
and
that was okay.
And they gave us a
whatever
bronze or whatever on that. And then we entered the Prospect Orchard.
And the feedback was, this is interesting, but perhaps you've included too many varieties.
Yeah, so there's too much flavour in this.
There's too much flavour, and there's perhaps too many varieties.
That's like the film Amadeus. The film in Amadeus where he goes, I think there are too many notes.
Yeah,
go,
it was like that.
No, sire, which notes would you like me to take out?
Yeah.
And it's because, weirdly as well, and I don't know why, but you know, there's kind of like, Joe, you'll remember, like when I was growing up, there was a thing called Cidrax, and it was like a kid's soft drink.
Oh yeah, I used to live off Cidrax. Yeah.
And there's like a cidery flavour in inverted commas.
Yeah.
And our cider doesn't really have it. You know, a lot of West Country Somerset cider has this very specific kind of cidery flavour.
Yeah.
And really, our cider generally doesn't. And my dad makes fantastic cider down in Somerset.
Yeah, it's quite cidery.
And it's got that very cidery flavour. And for some reason or other, our cider doesn't have.
I know what you mean.
Generic kind of, you know, very good.
Yeah, but that it's interesting that, you know, as a cider producer, you're using the word cidery, but I know exactly what you mean. It's a bit like
so like Barleywood and, you know, the other people who make like natural real cider that we kind of like
Wilding
as well, their cider has this,
tastes very cidery.
it tastes very kind of cidery in inverted commas, and what we're making,
it's really different.
Has loads and loads of different flavors, but it doesn't have that kind of, in inverted commas, cidery flavor, you know. So I think
the cidery component, kind of a bit like autolysis, which is the thing that makes sparkling wines taste like toasty and biscuits and smoke, you know, in fine sparkling wine. There is an essential requirement to have a certain amount of sugar in order to create those flavors. They're a complex which requires sugar to be present in order to create those flavors. And I think that the drier the cider, the less cider it is, I think, generally speaking.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I think it's, and it probably is like a sort of, because there was this whole thing, wasn't there, with terroir, and I noticed now Gabe has kind of said, oh yeah, there is terroir, you know, and there was this whole argument about whether you have terroir, and all of, you know, of course you do.
Of course you do.
And it's like, yeah, it's just where we're at here on this hill, and
you couldn't replicate what you do in where you are anywhere else in the world. I mean, you just have to look at your house and look at where you've got your plants and everything. You know, there are a lot of variables there that would need changing in order to try and mimic what you do, and it's completely unique. And you know, and you're miles up, and it's a long way north, and everything's very healthy. And I honestly think that altitude has a lot to do with your success, and the very big extreme changes during the ripening season between the warmth of the day and the cold of night. I think diurnal variation produces huge concentrations of anthocyanins you wouldn't normally get. I think you're blessed with a troubled bit of land that produces absolute magic.
So I know the Kingston Black was popular. What's the any others?
Well, I'm drinking the Pet Nat 19 now, and it's fantastic. But for me, the side of the day was the 18 Prospect.
18.
Yeah, I'd agree with that on the Prospects. I think it's incredible.
I would say both the 18 and the 21 for the two different ends of the perspective. It's a privilege to try a cider you haven't yet released and to try it before you consider it released. And then also the 2018, as you say, 5 years old. There's not many chances you get to try a blend like that, and it changes in the glass in about 5 minutes, which is like alchemy or something happening right in front of you, which is very special.
It's special. Yeah, absolutely. Here, Jack. Yeah.
And also, I'd just like to say it's been really wholesome to do this again post-lockdown, and we've essentially been 13 of us in your living room having a chat. I know life has returned to normal and it's great to go out, but equally, this has been a really strong part of 2020 in my mind, not to have nostalgia for lockdown times, but to get together with like-minded people was really formative and quite useful psychologically back then. So it's been great to have us in your living room, Bill and Harver. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And you're welcome to come and sit in our actual living room.
Well, I was going to say to Ed,
on my way.
See you tomorrow.
I'd like to say this is the last event in Joe Wadsack's 50th birthday week. I turned 50 exactly 3 years ago on Sunday, last Sunday. Only to discover I had a temperature of 106 and they were putting ice in the bath. And 2 weeks later, the government announced the pandemic, and I was one of the very first people to get it. And then the next two birthdays was during lockdown. So this is the first time I've not been sick, and there's been lockdown on the birthday. So my 53rd.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday!
What a way to celebrate! I'd rather drink this than any countless bottles of champagne. It's wonderful. And there's something very touching about the fact that I'm very proud about what you guys do, and I know who makes these drinks. So I can't pour this for someone without telling them the whole fucking story, because it's a wonderful one, and you're really kind, generous people.
We've always said, Joe, that it would be really great with every box of cider we sent out if you could just pop out of the box and tell the story.
Yeah, we want to say
it'd be a fucking heavy box.
This is why you should like it, you peasants.
It's like the birthday cake in the film Under Siege.
But do you know, the thing is about cider is it's so, and you know, I've said this to you, Joe, so you won't be offended. For every 100 flavours there are in grapes, there's 1,000 in apples. And we haven't even begun to tickle what you can do with it. And that's why I hope that I live to be 350. But you know, we sent a sample off, and people aren't prepared, like the thing about the nameless taste awards.
Was it the Great Taste Awards? It might have been.
It might have been, yeah. But the thing about,
if I get asked to judge it, I'm turning up. I want to make sure.
But the thing about these things is that if people, you know, like if you drank red wine and you'd never drunk red wine, you'd be like, "What the hell is this? This is too much." Or this is
nobody's born liking Roquefort, are they?
You know. I mean, so the thing is,
a kid to go, if you're a good girl, I'll give you a bar of chocolate or a slice of Roquefort. What do you want?
Yeah. So like. Yeah, well, the thing about it, so there's this, so if you've got a headset that is like, okay, I like a reasonable generic kind of sulfited pitch yeast cider, and you get something from us, it might be like, what on earth is this? Or if you are used to buying French wine or whatever, you know. And so like last week we sent a sample off to a restaurant, and they were really interested in everything, and we sent the sample off, and we just got this thing back going, it was really interesting.
You broadened our horizons, to be said.
And it was just quite funny, because it's like, obviously that was quite polite, because obviously but if you are not inducted into what is available on the palette of any particular product, then if you're used to drinking a generic 100% yeast, 100% fruit pitch yeast cider, and you suddenly get something from us or from another natural cider maker that is clean and nice and doesn't have faults, but it's just like punches you in the face with the complexity of flavour, you may not even like it, you know, because it's just too much.
It is. It can be an onslaught sometimes. I mean, the first time, it's an onslaught, isn't it? I mean, it's a tsunami of different things coming at you.
It is, but then if you hadn't had red wine, that would be the same. If you had like a really good Rioja or something, it would smack you around the face, and you'd be like, "What on earth?"
What's really odd though, Bill, is I judge all these wine competitions around the world. I'm just about to start judging the International Wine Challenge. We'll taste 15,000 wines in 2 weeks. There's about 130 of us. And I'm one of the panel chairs. I have a team of 6 judges. We judge 200 wines a day, every day, from 6 in the morning till 8 o'clock at night, 10 days straight. I get paid very well. Thank you very much to do it. So it's worth all the mouth ulcers you get at the end of the fortnight. But the fact is that 99% of those wines are pretty shit. And natural wine, per se, or the category of natural wine, is something I really struggle with. I think I only like about maybe 5%, maybe 3% of the natural wines I taste, because I can't stand the funky, slightly more organic, should we call it that, flavors in wine, because I think it's something that's evolved in our direction for a reason, and science has kept a certain focus on the way that wine has evolved over the years, and good wine has very few additives anyway. But cider, I'm completely different. Cider, if it's not completely natural, I don't drink it anymore. It offends the palate, and I don't know why it's okay for cider and beer to be like that, but it's not okay for wine. I mean, you got people buying barrels riddled with Brettanomyces so they can go make beer in Belgium from them because it's considered a boon. Actually, that's the name of the brewery that actually bought them. But it's you have Brettanomyces, intentionally Brettanomyces beers. And here I am saying I can't stand Brettanomyces in the wines. It smells like a baboon's arse. But I'll eat it with a block of cheese, which is virtually made from the stuff. So I don't know what it is. I've learned a lot about myself and about what it means to be good and bad from tasting your ciders. It's changed my mind about a lot of.
The weird thing is, to me personally, I can appreciate a cider made with pitch yeast and sulfites, and I can appreciate it's well made and it tastes okay. But it always tastes slightly poisonous to me. Whereas I'd say like what we're doing, what Artist Straw are doing, and what Wilding, yeah, Little Pomona and Wilding, and people are making naturally live cider. It tastes like a food. It's a food. Whereas something made with pitch yeast and sulfites, it's not. It's a confection. And you probably say, I mean, you could say the same for wine, I guess, but it's like.
Hey, I'm gonna say cheerio and leave you with Bill, and I'm gonna go and tuck these girls into bed because I think it's time.
Yeah. Thanks,
feel free to stay and
so
chat
much.
with Bill, and I will say cheerio to all you lovely people. Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming and thanks for chatting so much.
Thank you, Chava.
Thank you so much.
It's been amazing.
I'm gonna get if I drink all this, Emma's gonna go bananas. So I'm gonna...
Well, yeah, well, maybe like save some for Emma. Save some for tomorrow, Joe.
Yeah, I will do. I will do. I'll save some for lunch. Go with the roast.
It will be better tomorrow. Yeah, if you can get any, if you're welcome. If you want any information or if you can get any sense out of me, you're welcome, and I won't be offended if you. I'm back on the first one now.
Yeah,
so I love
Redstreak. It's delicious.
You know what's funny about being a cider maker? I'm sure it's the same with a winemaker or something, but so Jack, you make quite a lot of cider, don't you? Yeah, and sometimes you're like, this is fucking great. This is brilliant. Oh, this is so. And then occasionally you veer between a megalomaniac kind of faith in how wonderful what you're doing is and how wonderful it is, and then sometimes you're just like, God, is it just liking the smell of my own farts?
No comment. No comment.
I think Stellar palate always has something to do with it. You got to taste other people's drinks to get their perspective. Otherwise, it just context was always the most important thing here. There's always going to be people that love your cider, Bill. There's going to be people that hate your cider, but that's just the way of it.
Yeah, but the people who hate our cider are patently scum.
Well, usually, if somebody's passionate enough to hate it, there's probably something they do like. So the chances you actually meet in real life are thankfully very, very low.
But you know what? So, like the Kingston Black is you can immediately say this rocks.
It's exceptional.
It is, but I actually don't know whether it's better or. There's no such thing as objectivity, is there? But I think that what we're doing, the Prospect Orchard stuff is, I suppose, because I live here as well, so I'm host to all the microbiome that is involved in that as well, and it's just there's something really, yeah, I mean, it is alchemy and it's magic, and there's something
Maybe
magical.
maybe there's a magical yeast that grows only in your armpit, Bill, but that is unique.
Well,
So you know, there's like
maybe if it's not there, it doesn't taste good.
there's a there's just something really far out about it all, and it is, you know, it's been a funny couple of years, and definitely it's, I don't know, yeah, there's just something really kind of there's something about it that is beyond what it is, if you know what I mean. And yeah, I tell you what it is. I've been grafting this week, and I've been re-listening to the 1979 radio Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh, the original.
I'm in a kind of like cosmic kind of place, you know. And I was just listening. And you know that thing about, like, you know, they'd like the guys who make the planets on Magrathea, you know, and then the guy who did Slarty Bartfast, who did all the fjords, you know, and he's like, well, you know, he's been. They put their planet to sleep for like 70 million years because the universal economy crashed and no one wanted planets building anymore. And he's just like, well, you know, basically, I don't think there's any meaning to life. You just kind of try and do stuff that makes you happy and is enjoyable. And you know, and he's like, oh, you know, I like doing fjords, so, you know, I did Norway, and now I'm doing Africa, but I'm giving it loads of fjords because I really like the crinkly. And I just kind of think, you know, yeah, what we're doing is really cool, and I love it, and hopefully the love that we both have for it and the joy that it gives us comes out in hopefully they're little bottles of joy, you know. That's the cunning plan.
Yes, but you're making a drink that has, as far as it's possible to be, zero intervention. You don't even have refrigeration, so you've got a situation where you're not making cider. Trillions of organisms are, which, you know, nature just finds a way of doing things way better than we can ever understand. We'll never fully understand it, and I just think that it's wonderful that you have the courage to let your ciders go through these very, very risky and complex steps. And you know, more often than not, you have unbelievable results. I mean,
well, it's interesting. It's just too interesting. That's the problem.
It's incredible. Yeah.
I see the analogy a bit with whiskey, and going back to the mid 1990s, it was post the whiskey lock of the 80s when people weren't buying whiskey, and Isle of Arran distillers set their distillery in Lochranza in the north of the island well, they did it in 94, but they built it in 95. And at the time, people were saying, why are you building another distillery? There's been too many distilleries. No one's interested. They built it in 95. They were ready by about 2005 with a 10-year-old. And now they're riding this wave. They were the first in. And you've planted your orchards at a time maybe when not as many craft cider makers were planting M25 rootstock orchards. And you're riding that crest of a wave out now as more people get interested.
Fantastic. Yeah, Arran 14, what a whiskey. We'll be seeing that for another couple of years, won't we? Fantastic.
Well, do you know, like when I was like, so, you know, Jay, you're saying, oh, you're 53. So now I'm 54 now. And for years and years, I used to, as that thing, as a joke, say, oh, 50 years, man and boy. And now I'm like, oh, fuck, it's actually true, you know. So I was like, and yeah, when I was in my 20s and before my 20s, I really liked Lagavulin, you know, the Islay whiskey, you know. And at the time, then you could buy it in duty free in litre bottles, you know, and it was like,
and it was cheap.
No, and it wasn't. It was 21-year-old then.
Oh, bloody hell.
Yeah, it was 21. All of it was 21-year-old, and then they reined it back to 18-year-old. Is it 15?
No, it was 616 is the famous one now.
Yeah, so well, it used to be
the 8-year-old cask strength is the expensive one. That costs like
30 years ago. What's it? So 91-ish, when I was going off to India a lot for various reasons. We get a litre bottle, and it was 21-year-old then, and they had all the stuff on it about the strange horse of Suinbal and all that stuff. But you know, I never get that anymore. I get Lidl's Islay whiskey, which is extremely good, and only 18 quid a bottle. You know?
I thought you were about to say this is where you've kept 10 cases of it behind from the.
Well, this is the thing. If I had bought back then, like 20 cases of if I had like 100 litres of the Lagavulin from 1991, the 21-year-old, I imagine it's worth £1,000 a bottle now. You know?
Well, I was working in Oddbins I was an Oddbins under manager way back when, and twice a year there was there was 2 Saturdays a year where you could come in and you could buy any 2 malts off the shelf. If the age designated was below 16 years, you could buy 2 bottles for £25.
Okay.
I was drinking Springbank 16-year-old for £15 a bottle. I was drinking Ledaig 21-year-old for £20. What was I, and also when I was a Waitrose buyer, we had our own label whiskies, which famously were always a lot cheaper then. But now we know that it's a scarce resource. Supermarket owned label whiskies can often cost as much as normal branded whiskey. But we had an Isla whiskey which was made from Port Ellen before they mothballed it, and it was Port Ellen 13-year-old, and it was £12.99, and that was. And we were at the Millennium. We sold Highland Park 25-year-old for £25 a half litre, and it's just these things are now telephone numbers. The whiskey industry's gone bananas. I'm personally drinking an awful lot of Red Best 12-year-old, a lot of Irish pot still. That's kind of what I'm drinking.
Oh, well, that's very posh. I'm mostly, but. Do you know what? So I've just gone back to the 20...
You know what? I'm going to get you a bottle of Red Breast.
Yeah, bring us some up. I have just gone back to the 2020, and I would recommend it as being extremely refreshing and revitalizing at this stage of the evening.
You're talking gibberish.
It's kind of it's kind of gunpowdery austerity. And look, Ed Brown is dancing like an Egyptian.
I'm actually unmuting myself to say I've just gone back to the 2020, and I agree. It's refreshing.
Yeah, it's working good now. Yeah, it's refreshing, but not trivial, if you know what I mean. It has profundity.
I'll join you on that.
Yeah, well, cheers. Here's to those that wish. Here's to those that wish us well. All the rest can go to hell, as my granny used to say.
Oh, 2020.
I mean, Joe, the thing is you have so much technical knowledge, and you probably know about bubble quality. But it has particularly nice bubbles.
Yeah,
I think a fine mousse.
Fine mousse, yeah. There are 2 things which really affect the size and creaminess of the bubbles. Number one, it's the surface tension of the liquid, and that's to do with how much dead yeast deposits are dissolved in the liquid, because you end up with a common product, which actually means that the viscosity reduces to a point where the bubbles can only support themselves and they're very small. And if you increase that alcohol, the bubbles tend to get a bit bigger again. So if you've got low alcohol and a lot of amino acids, which you have here, and a lot of yeast flavors, you end up with very small bubbles, and that's what you get the creaminess from. I mean, some things can be downright sudsy, and a wine that tastes delicious with the wrong, if it has a really aggressive mousse, it can ruin the drink, I think. And the texture is very important. But that's lovely, mate.
Yeah, I think there's because the thing is Harvard's more into taking SGs and stuff before we bottle, and I'm just generally, we should bottle that now, that'd be all right, and generally, because one of the famous things about pet nat ciders is it'll say refrigerate before opening, and that means they bottled it too early, and it's basically you're gonna get 50 centiliters over your roof and 20 centiliters left in the bottom of the bottle. And we've been really lucky mostly with not having like ridiculously overactive. But I do quite like it, but I do also think all of these pet nats, if you poured them out into a jug and have it tomorrow when it's not fizzy, it will taste better.
Well, it reminds me of good quality keg beer. Of course, the gas is only there to protect the drink.
Yeah, well, that's
people try to pour it down the side of the glass. You're supposed to throw it and get rid of the CO2, give it a sniff, and I think these pet nats drink better if you give them a proper glug into the glass.
Well, I sometimes pour them in a sort of demi-Asturian kind of way, not the full one, but like a half, just to let them gas off a bit. But yeah, I mean, as a maker, one feels more secure if one's doing like 1,500 bottles, which in the real world is nothing, but in our world is like, it's huge. And it's like, if you're doing 1,500 bottles of something, it's like, if it's going to have a little bit of bottle fermentation, one feels really much more secure about that, because you pretty much know it's not going to go horribly wrong. Although I say we don't. It's quite hard to make shit cider. I don't know how so many people manage. Oh,
Some people
too much. Yeah, it's too much mucking about. I have this idea. One day I'm going to write this, and my second great book after my brilliant tome on how to make cider and grow apples, which you may or may not be aware of, available in all good bookshops. But yeah, my second book is going to be 9 times out of 10 when something goes horribly wrong, we feel we should intervene and do something. And 9 times out of 10, intervening and doing something is the worst possible thing to do. And you should really do nothing, which is like, I think the Bhagwan Osho wrote a book called Don't Just Do Something, Sit There. Anyway, I digress. Sorry, Ed. Take control, Ed. This is your big. I'm now at the random.
No, you see, I'm really enjoying the chat. So we've done all the sort of the formality stuff. We've tried all the nice things, and it's just nice to listen to the chat. So my son.
If you were married to me, you might disagree.
No. I mean, no, it's good. It's good. I am used to being talked at. Talked to. Don't tell my wife. No, my son this evening, he went to bed at 7 o'clock and took a bit of Lego to bed with him, which is a crane bit. And he wrapped it around his finger and wrapped it around a Matchbox car and cried because it hurt. And so I took it off him, but I promised to fix it for the morning. So whilst I'm listening to you guys chat, I'm rethreading a fucking Lego crane.
What could be more insulting? He's listening along, he's actually just playing with his Lego.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, fuck it. I mean, it's all about Lego. I fucking love Lego.
I love Lego.
So I'm fixing some Lego. So no, I'm really enjoying the chat. So carry on, please don't wait for me to sort of drive through. Everyone else, you can come off mute. I mean, we've done the official let's try things. So I mean, we're beyond that. This is the drink what you like and get bollocksed if you want to.
Oh, well,
I will say that obviously I am still recording, so I'm going to stop recording in a minute. When I put this Lego down, I will edit this because if we put this on YouTube, it will end when we said thank you to Bill and Hava and
make us all look really good.
I don't know if I can do that, Bill.
Bill,
software's great, but it can't make me look pretty or sorry.
Yeah. Oh, we've got some clicking.
What's that